All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, Pest Controller Pete finds an infestation of cockroaches.
If you come here at night, the floor would actually get up and literally move.
Restaurant Inspector Johnny finds something lurking in a dustbin of rice.
It doesn't really bear thinking about what would happen if that got into somebody's mouth.
An extreme cleaner Nick even finds religion.
Wherever you go, in squats or anything, there's always a Bible.
In Peckham, extreme cleaner Nick has been called by a landlord to clear a house that's been let through the council and then subsequently in May this year was illegally taken over by squatters.
We've been called in to clean up after a lady's rented a property out through the council. I think they've got dogs in there, so should be quite a bit of dog faeces, lots of mattresses just strewn around, general rubbish. We'll go and have a look. Let's look in this room first.
What immediately confronts Nick is surely a landlord's worst fears. Occupants with no respect at all for the newly refurbished property they, and obviously their dogs, moved into.
Yeah, this smells pretty bad. Kind of smells, got that dead body smell to it, to be fair. Dried dog faeces down there. You know, it's just really dirty. Got another room in here. Again, it's just sort of rubbish that they've collected and chucked around. Always find a Bible. Always. Don't know why. Wherever you go, in squats or anything, there's always a Bible. Which makes me think the people that live in here are trying to find an answer to the solution of life, but there is no answer.
Apart from dog poo littering the wooden floors and a revolting sofa in the kitchen, the downstairs isn't too bad. But what horrors may be waiting for Nick as he climbs the stairs? When it comes to grime, graffiti is one of the biggest problems facing our inner cities. In London alone, it costs the taxpayer over £100 million a year to wage war on the so-called graffiti artists. Here in Dagenham, Darren and his graffiti removal team are trying as always to stay one step ahead of the perpetrators, who are using even more sophisticated paints and sprays to make the graffiti much more difficult to remove. For his part, Darren has an armoury of jet washers and special gels to get rid of the graffiti, but in some cases like these scribblings on the local bowling club's walls, good old-fashioned methods are still the best way forward.
Well, with this one, we're going to find it easy to actually paint this out, and if we start jetting inside there, we're going to actually rip the render off the wall, so it's easy to just paint straight over the top there and clean it all up.
There's a remorseless inevitability about Darren's job. He's seen this wall many times before.
This wall alone, oh dear, must be, I suppose, at least once every 2 months. I mean, literally, it could be overnight. The guys could come back tonight, see that it's been painted over, and they'll go straight back over the top again with the spray paint.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I suppose a little bit disheartened, but keeps us in work.
In Peckham, Steve and James are making a start on clearing the 3-bedroom house as Nick ventures upstairs to check out the state of the bedrooms.
Okay, this is a bit more like it. This is generally the kind of thing you expect to find probably throughout a whole house.
Even though this bedroom is typical of what Nick finds, it doesn't get any easier for him to understand the mentality of the squatters.
It's just disrespect, really. Disrespect to the owners and disrespectful to themselves. You know, no one with any self-respect would live like this. Again, whenever I drive past houses and I see sheets and curtains up in windows, I know exactly what's inside those places. If you can't be bothered to go to IKEA and buy a blind, this is the sort of thing you live in.
As Nick checks out another bedroom, he spies a cup on top of the wardrobe. These have caught him out in the past.
Often in these places you've got to be careful of cups with on them on top of wardrobes. You start moving a wardrobe and you can end up with someone's urine all over you.
But the bedroom has yet to offer up its nicest surprises.
They've got their own fridge in here. Oh, look at that, dried in the bottom. Oh, that stinks. Oh. There you go. Rotten onions. I think they're onions. If it smells like that, can still make me gag slightly. It's just microwave. Oh, that's a beauty. Look at that. Fish head, and that looks like a fish eye.
Now Nick's checked out the lie of the land, time to get a plan of action.
The plan of action will be clear downstairs, got to try and get the boards off to get access to the back, and then clear upstairs. Then once all the rubbish is out, rip up the carpets, and then start cleaning.
For the thousands of professionals keeping us filth-free around the country, the job of the restaurant inspectors is surely one of the most important for our public well-being. Here in Wolverhampton, John and Faye's daily job is to make sure that behind the welcoming facade of the multitude of restaurants, the public are as safe as they can be from possible bad food hygiene in the kitchens. Today is a surprise visit to an Indian restaurant that in the past has become a regular haunt.
The premises has been a problem in the past, but I believe they may be under new proprietorship, so their past history wouldn't necessarily be taken into consideration. The worst that could happen is that we find sort of rodent activity, either rats or mice, and if we can determine that it's an active infestation, then the premises would be shut down.
After politely gaining entry, John and Faye can now go about their inspection. First impressions of the kitchen, however, don't look that good.
The kitchen looks very cluttered, and ideally you wouldn't have clutter in the kitchen. You want to be able to have a food premises which is easy to keep clean. One of the major problems with too much clutter in a kitchen is that you're not able to easily identify rodent activity. One of the things we sort of look for is if there's food lying around at room temperature. Obviously food needs to be kept under temperature control conditions to ensure that the particular problem with rice is that rice, you actually get spores forming in rice, and the problem is you can't kill those spores, okay, and they'll actually produce a toxin, and no amount of reheating would actually remove that toxin from the food. So we'd be looking for them to be keeping food in the fridge under temperature controlled conditions, and in particular foods like rice.
Very quickly, the threat of toxins from room temperature rice pale into insignificance with another of John's discoveries.
One problem I've just found, I've looked in a large container of rice here, and unfortunately what we've got is a screw, a large masonry screw, which is obviously something you don't want to see in rice, and would be particularly unpleasant if that ended up on someone's plate. But it doesn't really bear thinking about what would happen if that got into somebody's mouth. So I'm pleased I found it really, rather than a diner.
After the extra ingredient in the rice, the poppadom cupboard is next on the agenda.
I can see that they've got a cabinet here which they're using to keep foods warm. Again, minor cleaning issues. You know, there's accumulation there of food. Perhaps hasn't been cleaned for a while. Things like poppadoms, they're a ready-to-eat food, so it's really important that they're protected against any source of contamination. So perhaps cleaning appears to be an issue.
With the storage of the rice and the poppadoms already conspiring against the proprietor, let's just hope things are set to improve. In Barking, Peter the pest controller has arrived at a premises to continue his confrontation with one of the country's most unwelcome household guests.
Right, we're in Barking and I've got a cockroach job. I was called out yesterday and the infestation's quite bad, so I've got to come back and sort it out more thorough and seriously.
Cockroaches are one of the most difficult pests to eradicate. Legend has it that they are the only creatures that could survive a nuclear holocaust. They also spread diseases like dysentery, typhoid and gastroenteritis. All in all, a revolting and formidable opponent for Peter.
I come here yesterday and I found loads of cockroaches, all different sizes, from nymphs to adults, on all the cupboard areas. If we can have a look in this one here. As you can see, we've got a couple of cockroaches down the side here. Most jobs I'd go to, you only see telltale signs, which are like all black dots from the faeces, which gives you evidence that there is cockroaches there. They're more nocturnal. If you've got any big infestation, as we've got in this kitchen, you will actually see them running around during the day, as I will point them out going around, because I can see a few now. If you can see one, you can identify the species, which we've got the German cockroach here. But this house, for some reason, if you can see loads of them running around, which you can, you know that the infestation's been going on for a long time. If you come here at night, the floor would actually get up and literally move. all the cupboard areas will move. I've spoke to the owner as well, and she said it's a nightmare.
For Peter, and most importantly his clients, to have a chance at all of getting rid of the cockroaches, understanding their life cycle and how they live is vital to potential success.
I'll carry this around for the people. As you see the owner here, and I'll explain, like, there's the adults, which we have here, and then you've got the egg capsule, which is that at the back, which they carry. Then you've got your nymph, and then your nymph stage, as you can see, as they're getting bigger, as they molt out, they get bigger and bigger. And then on the last molt, they produce the wing cases, and then that's how you get the adults, which then sexually mature for breeding again.
This life cycle lasts about 3 months, and in that time, a single female will release thousands of eggs to add to the infestation. To get rid of cockroaches, the only successful way is the use of poison. The one thing you mustn't ever do is tread on them.
You never ever crush the cockroach, especially females. If you stamp on them, you're dispersed in the eggs. The eggs are going to hatch out anyway. So you don't want to spread the infestation even bigger.
Coming up in part 2, John and Faye make some horrible discoveries in the Indian restaurant. Nick clears the house in Peckham, Darren gets called to an emergency, and Peter coaxes out the cockroaches. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Dagenham, Essex, Darren and his graffiti team have made short work of painting out the graffiti on the bowling club's walls. Their next job is a row of garages nearby. Amazingly, not everyone is happy to see Darren and the boys.
Some people, believe it or not, don't want the graffiti cleared. They're just quite happy to just leave it there.
When it comes to painting out the graffiti on black or white surfaces, that's no problem. But Dagenham Council's graffiti team go to great lengths to try and get the right paint colour for each job. A deep russet red is required for these particular doors in the row.
We haven't got a match for this, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a word with our guys. I've done a paint match and it's come out burgundy, so we're going to get that paint ordered for the lady, and we'll come back tomorrow and we'll finish that off for her.
But as the lads get stuck in, Darren gets a call.
Just take this phone call. Hello? Okay then, mate. Yeah, no problem. We'll go straight over. All right then? All right, see you in a little while. Bye. Right, we've been called off this. We've got an emergency job to do. We've got a large paint spillage down at Lodge Avenue. So we're going to have to stop doing this graffiti now, and we've got to go over there and clear it all up.
In Wolverhampton, restaurant inspectors John and Faye are continuing their unannounced inspection of the local Indian restaurant. Already they found a masonry screw in a bucket of rice, and the poppadom cupboard didn't get the thumbs up. It looks like things might be getting even worse, with a good look at a chopping board.
Another sort of issue I've found is the condition of this chopping board. Okay, as you can see, heavily scored, and there's even sort of mould accumulation. Now the problem with heavily scored chopping boards is that the scores will harbour bacteria, and once a chopping board's got into this sort of condition, as you can see, it's quite sort of porous, you can't keep it clean. Pretty unpleasant really. So this chopping board is good for the bin.
General cleanliness of a kitchen can tell a lot about how it's run and how the staff are dealing with more serious issues like cross-contamination of food. Consequently, John is always eager to check in the darkest recesses of an establishment. The floors under the worktops need cleaning every 3 days. A quick look with the torch will reveal all.
What I can sort of see under here is that there's an accumulation of food debris. It's important to distinguish between what's from today and what's been there for a while. And I can see from looking at here that some of this has been here for quite some time. For example, there's what appears to be a rotten potato. It just shows that, you know, somebody's not taken a brush to the floor.
Not only are the kitchen staff seemingly not sweeping under the cabinets, Faye has now discovered even the most rudimentary cleanliness can't really be achieved.
When did the soap run out? Did you not want to buy any more soap? No. Okay. You're happy with the fairy liquid? Okay.
John is also finding out that the lack of hand soap isn't the only problem when it comes to the washing up.
We've got a container being used for storage of cleaning equipment. Now, as you can see, you know, you probably can't smell it. You've got cleaning cloths which are just in an atrocious state, really, covered in food debris, in a poor condition. If you're using something to clean, it's obviously got to be clean. You can't clean with dirty equipment. Also here, we've got a colander, which obviously they've done a bit of a DIY job on it. You can see where they've drilled the holes bigger. Now what that's actually left behind is sharp metal shards which could come off into food and again end up on somebody's plate. So again, that's the sort of equipment that just needs to go in the bin.
Natural knockers number 8.
In Peckham, South London, Nick and his team are making good progress with the 3-bedroom house, clearing out the rubbish and preparing the house for a deep clean tomorrow. But Nick's feeling a bit worse for wear.
I've hit a brick wall now. I'm starting to get off people who have put me in this situation.
The landlord's given express orders for the boys to just get rid of everything from the house. But instead of disposing of it all in the truck, Steve's going to make the next door neighbour's day.
We're just delivering this fridge for that lady there. She's seen outside the property and wants it. So she can have it.
Nick, on the other hand, is still in a grump with the squatters.
Just people who obviously don't give a monkeys about how they live, quite frankly. How you'd want to live in this smell, I don't understand. And I imagine the shower's pretty clean because I doubt they've used that, so we'll find out anyway.
Well, he's right that the shower hasn't been used, at least for washing.
To me, that looks like someone's just used it as a toilet. That looks like urine to me. So I would imagine the only use of that shower has been as a third toilet. Nice.
With most of the rubbish now cleared, all that's left is to get rid of the dog-stained carpets.
Removing all the carpets now. They're unsalvageable. Obviously, dogs have been urinating on them and doing whatever else. So they're not worth saving. You can't save them. So just rip them up, get rid of them, basically.
Taking the carpets up reveals the legacy of the dog urine and faeces, something that Nick will tackle tomorrow in the deep clean. But already, the house is beginning to look normal again, and Nick's cheering up.
These are jobs we like. We're allowed to get a bit of satisfaction seeing everything cleared out, because most people don't want to touch it. You know, the lady whose house this is wouldn't even come through the front door. It's all done now. It's not too late in the day, and we've got everything programmed in for tomorrow. So yeah, no problems today. Easy.
Over in Barking, Peter, the council's pest controller, is preparing to unleash his tube of poison on the unsuspecting infestation of cockroaches. To them, though, they'll initially think it's Christmas.
If a kid wanted a lollipop or see any sweets, they would run for the sweets before they would eat their dinner. And that's the same with this, which I can actually show you in this house by putting a little drop down and watching them run to it straight away.
The cockroaches are normally nocturnal, but it just takes a little drop of the poison to coax them out of their slumbers.
It's secondary poisoning. Once the adults eat it, or the nymphs eat it, if they die and an adult will eat another adult which is dead, or eat a nymph which is dead, then they will get secondary poisoning and they will die.
As Peter starts to inject the sweet-tasting poison wherever he can that's safe to the children in the house, it gives him a little time to reflect.
I love this job. It's one of the best jobs I've found on destroying stuff. I do a lot of hunting anyway. I've got firearms, I do a lot of deer stalking, but the best thing I enjoy more than anything is catching rats. I know it sounds silly about going hunting, but I do like conservation as well, especially the endangered species. I mean, if the German cockroach becomes endangered, and we found them, I'd try and set up some form of group and try and get them back together again.
After injecting the poison all over the kitchen, it's going to be about 4 weeks before Peter knows whether his plan has worked, but he's sure it will.
All the cockroaches will go, and I'm very confident. Come back in 4 weeks and you'll see a difference. You've got to be confident in this game, because if you're not, you're letting yourself down and you're letting the public down. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for, to help the public.
In Dagenham, Darren and the graffiti removal team have arrived at their emergency call-out, a large spill of yellow paint strewn all over the road. The first thing for Darren to do is ascertain what kind of paint it is. If it's gloss, that could be a nightmare. If it's emulsion, the job should be pretty easy.
It looks like it's emulsion. I mean, hopefully if it's emulsion. If it's a gloss, then we'll have to go either way. We'll have to put chemical down, try and get it removed. But, I mean, it does seem to be it looks like an emulsion, so hopefully it'll just rinse away and that'll be it then.
Very quickly, after Chris breaks out the power washer, it becomes apparent they've got a result.
Well, as you can see there, we've virtually cleaned up the area now. Most of the paint's gone now. We're quite happy with the results there. That looks good.
In Wolverhampton, John and Faye have finished their inspection of the Indian restaurant. They found that the establishment's cleaning of kitchen equipment and surfaces isn't up to scratch, and also more attention needs to be paid to cross-contamination in the fridge. John and Faye always allow time for proprietors to put things right, so for the time being, the restaurant is getting a stay of execution.
I was just explaining that we're probably going to revisit in about a month's time, because there's a few cleaning issues, and cleaning has been an issue in the past, but the proprietor isn't here at the moment, so I've just obtained his contact telephone number, his mobile, and I'm going to speak to him and then do a revisit in about a month.
For all the inspectors, it's not so much about being heavy-handed and closing food businesses down. It's about educating the cultural mix of eateries in Wolverhampton about the British laws they have to comply with, but at the same time making sure that the inspectors are fully aware of what all the diverse religions in the city require.
We also try and sort of keep abreast of different sort of religions and what they eat and their beliefs, so we're not sort of trying to ask them to do something which is totally against their religion and their beliefs, really.
And with over 500 restaurants and 300 takeaways in Wolverhampton alone, it's a constant balance that John and Faye relish. Since the filming of the show, the landlord of the 3-bed house has easily relet the property, and after Johnny and Faye's return visit, the Indian restaurant has cleaned up its all over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the grime fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, Wolverhampton Enforcement Officer John plays hardball.
Maximum fine is £50,000, 5 years imprisonment.
Council property manager AJ confronts another dreadful flat.
You don't want to see anyone live like this, really, do you?
Grime investigator Alison might have struck it lucky.
Some pictures there, might be a Picasso.
And Westminster Council's toughest officer Jarno shows some mercy.
I'll give you an hour, please.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I apologize.
No problem.
I feel guilty too.
In London's West End, the struggle against illegally dumped rubbish is a constant nightmare. One of the worst areas for dumped food and waste is Chinatown, where the hundreds of restaurants often flagrantly disregard the rules. Today, Jarno, the council's no-nonsense grime fighter, is starting his tour of duty with an old fridge languishing on the pavement.
Well, it seems that someone has left the fridge outside. There's no way you can find out where it's from. You know, it's just a piece of electrical equipment. In general, if an item is reported and submitted to Veolia, our contractor, it's gone within 3 hours or so. 3 hours at the most is the time waste will spend on the street before it's removed.
So with a quick phone call, the fridge is dealt with. Now it's onto a much bigger problem just down the street.
Well, I always find something here. We've got quite a problem here with maintaining cleansing standards, fly tipping. As you can see, you know, the bins, they've just been picked up, I think, about an hour ago, and they're already starting to overflow. It's incredible how much waste this area generates. It's tons and tons and tons.
The main problem for Jarno is to find any evidence amongst the rubbish of an address to lead him to the culprit. But the perpetrators are getting wise to this, so they're making sure there's nothing on the rubbish to link them.
There's absolutely not a single shred of evidence there, so you know, the only thing we can do is to avoid any more from going out by just trying to dispose of it as good as I can. You know, it is a never-ending battle here, especially, you know, some areas are better than others, but especially in Chinatown, it's dumping of waste has been going on for such a long time. It's certain mentality people have got, and they're just used to leaving things out and not taking pride in their environment. It's sad to see waste left out on the street like this, but you know, there's only so much you can do.
Up in Wolverhampton, John, the council's environmental enforcement officer, is tasked with the same brief as Jarno in Chinatown to relentlessly pursue the fly tippers. As an ex-copper, John has a wealth of experience in catching offenders. He, coincidentally, has also got a discarded fridge to start his shift.
This is a typical fly tip in Wolverhampton. White goods being abandoned, too idle to take it to the local CA site. They just abandon the fridges and just rely on the council to pick them up, and this is a major problem.
Unlike Jarno's beat, often the streets of Wolverhampton are made up of residential houses, so John can knock on a few doors and do what he does best, see if anyone will lead him to the illegal dumper, or even better, find someone who puts their hands up to the offence.
Those people there, did you see them put the fridge out?
That's been out there for weeks.
Has it?
Yeah, it's not ours.
It isn't yours?
I've just seen you from upstairs and I was thinking, what's that? It's next doors.
It is next doors?
Yeah.
So on this occasion, John might get an early result. Time to knock up next door and see what they've got to say.
Hello, love. My name's John Eccleston from Wolverhampton City Council.
Yep.
I'm an environmental enforcement officer.
Yeah.
The fridge that's on the footpath there, is that your fridge?
Yes, it is.
What is it doing there?
Well, I was out and when because it was sitting here.
Yes.
After years on the beat, John doesn't want to stand and chat. All he wants is the fridge quickly removed.
When will it be returned back to the curtilage of your property?
Within the next half an hour.
In the next half hour?
Yeah.
Okay, if it is left there, it's still your fridge, you are liable for that fridge.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So if it isn't back there today, I'll visit you again.
If the fridge isn't disposed of by the lady, the consequences could be extremely serious.
Consequences are appearing at Magistrates Court. Maximum fine is £50,000 and 5 years imprisonment.
Probably a little harsh for this fridge, but the size of the maximum punishment just shows how much of a deterrent is needed to combat the fight against the fly tippers. In Leicester, the council provides over 22,000 council properties for the community. Like cities all over the UK, if a council tenant dies with no immediate sign of relatives, the council has a responsibility to offer what's known as a welfare funeral. Before a property can be cleared, it's Environmental Health Officer Steve and Alison's job to go into the flat and try and find any evidence of next of kin, but most importantly, of evidence of any assets which the council can sell to recoup the cost of the funeral.
We're at a flat where a gentleman's been found dead. No relatives came forward, so we've come today to have a look through the property, see if we can find any addresses or names or anybody who might want to be involved in a funeral. If we find any evidence of any bank accounts or money, then we are able to recover some of our costs. I mean, this looks like he might have either dealed in antiques or bric-a-brac. Some pictures there, might be a Picasso. Or maybe not.
For Steve and Alison, there's always the potential of making some gruesome discoveries, as the only people normally to have entered the property are the police to clear away the body. On entering the bedroom, it's obvious that this is where the old man died.
We've come into the bedroom now, and there's a different smell in this room. From the rest of the flat, so we know he was found in here, and you can certainly tell that from the smell.
The distressing sight of the body fluids on the bed are something that Alison, alas, is all too used to.
This isn't particularly bad at all. We've seen a lot worse than this. Sadly, it's not unusual to find money under mattresses, so yeah, we'll have a look under here. Make sure there's not a stash of money under there.
On this occasion, there's no stash under the mattress. Alison and Steve will have to look further into the man's affairs if they're going to get a result. Across town, AJ is the man from the council charged with clearing the council properties after Alison and Steve have completed their work. Today, AJ has arrived at a flat where a man has died. His job is to assess the state of the flat so he can brief the clean-up team and get the apartment cleared out, refurbished and let to another tenant as soon as possible. First impressions don't look that good.
It's jam-packed at the moment. First thing I'll obviously look for is if there's any fleas in the property. They tend to jump on white items. So far, so good.
As AJ moves through into the bathroom, things are getting worse.
Oh, pleasant ain't the word. It's Bit disgusting, really. You don't want to see anyone live like this, really, do you? But that's the way the society is at the moment. People don't believe what I actually see. You can tell people everything, saying how bad it was, but seeing is believing, really. I mean, that's when people sort of realise how bad it really is in here.
Next up is the bedroom, a sad and revolting vision of how the old man lived and died.
Looking at it looks like if his this is where he's passed away. Yeah. Sometimes it feels spooky. You know when you know somebody's died in the property, you get these like tingles. But it's part of the job.
The sitting room is full to bursting with all manner of clutter and rubbish. This is often the norm with single occupancy flats. The tenants often tend to hoard the weirdest items over many years until they can't even get around their own flat. All that AJ needs to do now is photograph the contents before his clean-up team arrives. In Soho, Jarno is continuing his tour of Chinatown, clamping down on illegal rubbish. But he's suddenly spied a pigeon helping itself to an early lunch.
Oh, dear. Right, I don't think this needs much explaining. It's obviously someone that didn't really enjoy the food in Chinatown and reversed his digestive system.
All that Jarno needs to do now is dial in the flushers to get the mess cleared away. As he waits, Jarno can't help but have a rummage around some other illegal bin bags. Commercial waste should be put out in paid-for marked bin bags, not black ones, so if Jarno can find evidence of an address in the bag, then he can fine the business.
Now, it was fairly easy to get evidence from this, so what I'll do, I'll take this evidence back and I'll issue a fixed penalty for this. Unpaid commercial waste usually always gets a fixed penalty.
As luck would have it, suddenly the owner of the bags appears.
You're going to get a fine now, don't you know? You can't leave it out in black bags.
But it's amazing how far a bit of pleading will go.
I beg you, please help me. I'm going now and I'm coming and within 10 minutes I will clear it.
Yeah. No, that's fine. I'll give you an hour then, yeah?
Yes, sir.
I'll give you an hour, please.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I apologize.
No problem.
I feel guilty too.
No problem. Thank you very much.
So allowing a stay of execution, a charitable Jarno returns to see how the flushers are doing, cleaning up the pavement pizza.
Well, we've got the flushing vehicle here now. So what's going to happen now is we're going to flush it away, disinfect it with a disinfectant, and also spread a bit of a scent over it, so at least it smells better.
With a quick washdown, the legacy of an over-exuberant diner is quickly flushed away down the nearby gully, and the doorway is given a sweet-smelling makeover. All in all, a successful end to Jarno's day. Coming up in part 2, Alison and Steve unearth some undesirables in the dead man's flat. AJ's whirlwind clean-up team arrive. John confronts some residents, and we're out on a night with Dave and Byrne, flushing the City of London streets. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Leicester, environmental health officers Steve and Alison are still sifting through a dead man's flat who passed away seemingly with no relatives. Consequently, the council has had to pay for a welfare funeral. Before they can have the flat cleared out, they're looking for any clues to the man's assets so they can reclaim the cost of the funeral. In doing so, they get a pretty good picture of how the man lived.
He's obviously interested in antiques and he's got quite a few knickknacks around. Which is quite unusual actually. A lot of these places, there's nothing. There's not a picture, an ornament, a book or anything. You know, he eats his food out of the saucepan. It's a very, almost like student lifestyle. Quite often you find a pornography collection. Haven't found that here, but it's not unusual to find that. We tend to throw that stuff away and we kind of try and save people's sort of embarrassment really.
There are on average over 40 welfare funerals a year for Alison and Steve to deal with. So they've seen it all before, but there are still emotionally very sensitive issues for them when trying to trace relatives who are probably unaware of what has happened to their loved ones.
I think the worst bit for me is when you find a scrap of paper in somebody's wallet with a name on and you don't know what relation that person is to the person who's died, and you've got to ring them up and say, excuse me, do you know this gentleman or this lady who's died? You know, and suddenly they might just say, oh yeah, that's my brother, or that's my son, you know, or whatever. And that could be a bit difficult. You don't know who's going to be on the other end of the phone and what you're going to have to tell them.
Even though they've built up a personal profile of the dead man, there's still no sign of any relatives, or for that matter, any paperwork that might reveal some assets.
What we haven't found at the moment is a wallet or any file with any really personal documents in it. And we haven't found a file, you know, with a birth certificate, marriage certificate, relatives' death certificates, which you might expect. So at the moment, we're still a little bit in the dark.
In Wolverhampton, ex-cop John, the council's environmental enforcement officer, is on the trail of the owner of an abandoned sofa.
What we've got here is a settee that has been dumped on a footpath, blocking the footpath. It's outside a house that's to let. It may have come out of that house by either the previous tenant or by the landlord. So we'll just make 1 or 2 inquiries at the doors to see if we can find out who put it there. Have you any idea how the settee got in? How long's it been here? Any ideas?
A few weeks now, about 2 weeks.
It's about 2 weeks. Have you no idea where it come from?
John's getting nowhere fast. Perhaps it's worth trying one more resident.
I do. Yeah, any idea where this came from? Yeah.
As he goes over to the lady, eagle-eyed John spots her committing an offence.
No. Can you not drop that on the floor, please? No, you can get a 65 fixed penalty for that. It is waste and somebody else has got to pick it up if you don't.
The lady's dropped a cigarette butt and doesn't seem to understand that John's going to do her for the offence. That one cigarette is going to cost her £65.
Can I have your name and address, please?
It takes time for the lady to realise what's happening, and when she does, she's not happy at all.
Because you could have said, you know what, I'll give you a warning, but don't do it again. But no, I will give you a fine. What for? I got 3 kids. Clean up the street, get it cleaned up. Instead of telling me I'm fining you for a fag that I put down the drain for you. Look at the state of Wolverhampton streets. Get them cleaned. That's what you want the money for. Clean them.
John's used to this verbal abuse. For him, he's got a job to do, keeping Wolverhampton streets clean, whatever the residents might think.
There's no difference between this lady dropping the fag hands, as that paper, chip paper, those being the cans down there. Just she got caught. She'll be receiving a fixed penalty through the post. In the event of non-payment, she'll go to magistrate's court.
As for the sofa, looks like John's going to draw a blank, so it'll have to be collected and disposed of by the council. What residents don't seem to realise is that the council will happily dispose of up to 5 items like the sofa for a subsidised £16. Better value surely than 65 quid for a cigarette butt. In Leicester, AJ's crack clearance team have arrived to clear out the dead man's flat. AJ has to get the council property cleared and available to rent as soon as possible, as there are now new targets he needs to meet, only allowing a maximum of 21 days before the flat must be let out to a new council tenant. Fortunately, this time there's no danger of needles or drug paraphernalia in the property. Dennis and Sean can get stuck in, and when they get going, there's no stopping them. Everything that isn't nailed down in the property ends up in their bins.
These are all his personal items, really. I know it's sad, like, someone's died in the room, but you're in the job every day. It's a thing that doesn't pass through your mind anymore. You come into a house and you get an album of photos, and it's sad, really, because there's a lot of memory there. Wedding photos, your granddad, your parents. Once it's gone in here, it's gone.
With the speed these properties need to get turned around, sometimes the boys can get there a little early.
We've done an house, and actually walked in, and there was a woman there flicking over the telly, and we've come to empty her. And she should have been there, like, I mean, that's what you come up against, really.
To make their life more difficult, often the lads can't park their dustbin lorry near the property, and this flat is no exception. Most of their time is spent taking the bins and other heavy items to the lorry, a problem that slows their progress enormously. Either way, though, within a matter of hours, this flat is devoid of any trace of the old man. A sad but necessary conclusion of the life the gentleman led.
The whole place is empty now. Now what we can do is basically check out all the doors, the windows, the flooring, whether it needs painting or not.
Even though the place looks pretty clean, AJ needs to install a new kitchen, a new bathroom, new light sockets and give the whole flat a lick of paint before the next tenant can move in. Often AJ will recharge the previous tenant for any damage to the property, even if it means getting payment out of the deceased person's estate. But on this occasion, he puts it all down to wear and tear and there's nothing to pay. Within just a few days of making the renovations, the flat will be let to a new and hopefully grateful tenant. Across town, the search continues for environmental health officers Alison and Steve, who are trying to find any evidence of relatives to contact to alert them to the tenant's demise, but still, it seems futile.
We still haven't found any evidence of any close relatives. At the moment, nobody. Just him and his antiques.
They're also having no luck on finding any assets that the man might have had to pay for the welfare funeral. A welfare funeral costs the council on average £1,000, so any contribution would help. Suddenly though, Steve might have a breakthrough.
There's some car keys, a Volvo and a Ford.
We've got 2 car keys, so we'll have a look outside in the car park and see if we can find a Volvo and a Ford that these keys fit. If they're in running order, we could send them to auction. That might help towards the cost of the funeral. That'll be the Ford.
The Ford is easy to locate in the car park outside, complete with a few parking tickets.
It's quite an old car, but it looks in good condition. Yeah, we might get a couple of £100 for it.
On closer inspection of the boot, Steve finds some documents that could lead them to the Volvo.
Volvo 740 GLE estate.
With a quick look round the surrounding area, the Volvo is still proving elusive, but now they've got the registration number, it should be easy to trace. Finally, quite a productive end to a rather frustrating day.
Disappointing that we haven't found any relatives. That would have been nice. We've got enough now to certainly try and recover some of the costs, and obviously in the absence of any relatives, we'll just get on and deal with the estate and make sure that everything's tied up and there aren't any loose ends.
It's late Thursday night in the City of London, and as the evening revellers have one for the road, Dave and Byrne, one of the city's street flushing teams, are heading out to start their shift.
Turn on, Byrne.
It's their job to clean up the legacy of excess drinking, flush the streets and clear all the drains. Tonight is the night to tackle some cross grids, a regular job that Dave loathes.
Doing these is a nightmare. Some of them are really difficult to get up. This is a cross grid and they're just long gullies. They get dirty really quickly because they're only shallow and narrow. I mean, once they're full of dog ends and dust and sludge, the water won't drain off into them.
Eventually, Byrne and Norm get all the grids up and Dave can get his hands dirty.
This is definitely the worst bit of the job. I mean, we clean sick and we clean excrement. But this is the worst part because you're so close to it. I mean, with sick and excrement, you can sort of keep at a distance.
After Dave's handballed all the fag ends, dust and sludge, all that's left to do is hose the grids down. But if getting the grids up was bad, putting them back's a nightmare.
The grids don't seem to want to go back in. It's really annoying and time consuming.
But with a bit of delicate footwork, the grids go back in.
Hallelujah. Right, we finally managed to get the grids back. One of them had managed to bend outwards and camber, so it wouldn't fit in. That's this area finished. It's taken a lot longer than it should have done, but we got it done in the end. And now we're going to put everything back on the cab back and go and have a cup of tea.
Since the filming of the show, AJ has eventually got the Leicester flat back on the housing rental register, and the woman who dropped her cigarette butt has still not paid John's fixed penalty fine. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the grime fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, restaurant inspector Andy discovers an unwanted guest.
Call your pest control.
Crime prevention officer Vicky hears from the public.
All you coppers are bent.
Environment officer Dino helps with a murder investigation.
They've never found the murder weapons, which was a golf club and a knife. Maybe we'll find something, maybe we won't.
And pest controller Pete serves up a mouth-watering menu.
What we're going to use today, believe it or not, is prime gravy dog food, which works perfect for rats.
All over the UK, graffiti is one of the biggest problems for the nation's grime busters. Councils spend hundreds of millions of pounds trying all different ways to eradicate this scourge on our inner cities. For Darren and his graffiti removal team in Dagenham, South East London, the fight is relentless. The daily grind of ridding the area of seemingly meaningless tags and scribbles is often interrupted to respond immediately to any graffiti that's deemed racist and offensive. Dagenham Council is rightly proud of its zero-tolerance approach and is committed to getting rid of this type of graffiti within 7 hours of it being reported. What makes matters worse is that on this call-out, the graffiti is outside a local school.
The main priorities are the racist and offensive materials that we get. Even if we're working on a job, we'll try and clear that job up quickly, leave that job and then deal with the racist and offensive straight away.
The first thing to do, as always, is locate the offending article.
We've got a rough idea where it is on paper. It's opposite the school.
It's not long before they find the graffiti adorning a traffic bollard.
We've found exactly what it is, and as you can see, it's not very nice at all. Not very nice indeed. So what we'll do is we'll get this cleared straight away because it is outside the school and I don't want it hanging around.
Darren has an array of chemicals at his disposal, but the first one applied doesn't get a result. Time to raise the game.
It's actually gone right into the plastic and stored itself inside the plastic. So what we're going to do now, we're going to try a stronger chemical, which is designed to go inside and draw it out.
But even the strongest chemicals aren't having the desired effect. Best to resort to the old-fashioned approach.
Well, as a last resort, what we've done here is we've just put just a thin coat of paint over the top to stop it greening through. As you can see, it's covered it completely now. There's nothing there at all.
In Nottingham, Steve and Vicky, the community protection officers who patrol the city's centre, are also plagued by graffiti. Theirs is a very different tactic, using photographic evidence to try and catch the budding Banksies.
We take photos, we've got hundreds of different tags of graffiti, then basically we've got to actually catch this person in the act. And then if they have got anything in their folders or at home with these tags on, we can link it to what's on our database and then go forward with court proceedings.
It's a bit like a game really. They're out here trying to do this and not get caught, and we're out here trying to catch them. It's a pity they don't take their own advice, isn't it? That's probably aimed at us because they're aware of the fact that we patrol here. They're aware of the fact that we will be coming down to try and catch them. So it is a game, and with them writing things up there, I think it's just a message to us.
Wind-up tactic.
But it just makes us want to catch them even more, to be honest.
Graffiti is just one of the myriad of offences that the CPOs deal with to keep the centre of the city of Nottingham free from littering, fly tipping and the legacy of antisocial behaviour and drug and alcohol abuse. Just on this morning alone, Steve and Vicky have already dealt with some illegally dumped rubbish, bust a girl for dropping a cigarette butt, recovered some needles, sorted out a car break-in and found time to help the odd person with directions. Time now to catch up with an old friend.
How's it going? All right?
Yeah, not bad.
Doing a good community job as always.
There's zero tolerance towards begging on the streets of Nottingham, but overnight, some like this guy have suddenly become buskers. That way, they can avoid being moved on.
Anyway, I love you and Lisa, and have a very nice evening.
You too, take care of yourself.
Well, basically, he's a regular beggar throughout the city centre. Now he seems to have discovered the art of playing the little pipe, so because he can play an instrument, he will be classed as a busker, although we know the underlying alternatives are begging.
It's estimated that there are over 81 million rats living in the UK. That's 1.5 rats per head of the population. For pest controller Pete in Barking, keeping them under control is a continuous struggle. Today, Pete's come to some fishing lakes in Eastbrook, South London, a favourite hangout for his furry adversaries. To make matters more difficult, in this location, he can't use his normal arsenal of poisons and traps to deal with the problem.
We're at Eastbrook. We've got a contract here. We've got rats all round the lake. It's a nature reserve, so we've got to use a live catching trap and not killing traps like mouse traps or backbreakers or anything like that because of the wildlife. That's why we don't use poison. What we're going to use today, believe it or not, is prime gravy dog food, which works perfect for rats. The dog food actually goes inside the trap, and the smell of it, they just go and love it.
Pete is the first person to realise that rats are incredibly cunning and intelligent adversaries. To have a chance of trapping your rat, you have to know how and where he lives and all facets of his behaviour. So Pete's got a trick up his sleeve to help him detect what holes the rats are using.
What we've got here is ordinary flour. When I come to a hole and I want to make sure I've got activity going in and out, basically this is what I do. I tip the flour into my little sieve and then basically sieve it over the hole. And then when I come back to check my traps on the last thing at night, I walk round and I'll do this to a few holes and I should get footprints. If I've got footprints, then I know it's a good place to start placing my baits again.
But sometimes it's just good old detective work that Pete relies on as to where to set his traps.
There's a particular diggings going on here and the actual rat hole is there. If you look inside the hole, how well packed down it is.
This looks like a perfect place to set his trap, but there's other psychological issues to bear in mind when trying to catch the elusive rodents.
Rats are neophobic, which means basically once you alter their environment, they don't like it. It might take 2 to 3 weeks before they actually hit the trap, but sometimes I have come over here and caught them within the day.
Either way, Pete's hoping that the rats will fall foul of his diligent planning. Time will tell when he returns. If there's one way to try and keep our inner cities crime and grime free, it's constantly maintaining their appearance. Once buildings become abandoned and overgrown, very soon fly tipping, graffiti, soliciting and all other manner of antisocial behaviour takes place. These hotspots are often heralded by drug dealers' old trainers hanging off telephone lines. Stand under these long enough and someone will offer you drugs or mug you. In Nottingham, Dino and his Neighbourhood Environmental Action Team, or NEAT for short, makes it their daily job to clear these unsightly areas so the residents can feel more pride and also peace of mind living in the surrounding community.
We're in the Radford area today, and basically what we're going to do, we're going to try and clear up some of these grotto spots, cut these bushes down to stop cars and coming on late at night, drinking, doing a bit of drugs and obviously fly tipping, because as you can see there's a lot of rubbish out and about. Probably got the contents of somebody's garden, obviously a few conifer trees and stuff. There's no barriers or anything to come into the car park, so what they've done is just tipped it off here. Just try and make the area as nice as possible.
While Dino and the team get stuck in clearing the fly tips and pruning back the undergrowth, their progress is briefly interrupted by the police.
Not found anything as yet. Obviously we've just took the big bushes out at the front, so... Yeah, we took all the fencing away. We've not noticed anything in particular. That was CID. There was a murder here in this vicinity 2 years ago on Boxing Day, and obviously she's seen us tidying up, and they've never found the murder weapons, which was a golf club and a knife. So obviously she's just saying to us now that all the bushes have been cut down. If we come across it, well, we give them a call at the local Nick. Who knows? Maybe we'll find something, maybe we won't.
Whether Dino will uncover the murder weapons remains to be seen, but it just goes to show how crime can escalate in these areas if they're left to deteriorate. In Dagenham, Darren and his graffiti removal team have just arrived at their last racist and offensive job of the day.
We're just going to have a look now in the flats, see what we can find anything.
It doesn't take long for Darren to find what he's looking for.
Right, as you can see here, there's some offensive material there that we're going to remove today, and also there's some there. It is offensive to people, and they don't really want to be seeing that on the wall, especially if you're walking by with your kids or something. You won't want to see that. The guys there are just getting themselves sorted out with their cables and that and chemical. We're going to apply some chemical to it, leave it to dwell for a little while, and then once the chemical's dwelled and took its time to sink in, then we'll jet it off hopefully, and that should come straight off. Right, well, what I'm going to do now is just to apply the chemical. Just get a base on there really, cover the whole lot, and what it'll do is it'll draw the paint into the chemical and allow us to just jet it straight off. We've got a vast range of chemicals in the van, and we'll try the usual stuff like our usual gel that we use, and if that doesn't clear it, then we'll go on to other chemicals, stronger or milder depending on what the paint is itself. There's nothing we ain't found yet that we can that stumped us. We normally clear everything.
It's only a few minutes before the chemical starts to do its job.
Can you see it breaking down? It's actually breaking it all down now. All the paint is going into the gel. And that's just a signal for us now that we can actually clear it.
The high-pressure jet wash makes short work of the graffiti. It's obvious that the gels have made it a simple job to spray off. It's another very positive end to Darren and the team's day, keeping a constant vigil against offensive graffiti. Coming up in part 2, Steve and Vicky run into trouble policing the no drinking ban. Pete's hard work seems to get a result. Dino clears the shrubbery, keeping an eye out for the murder weapons. And we're out with Restaurant Inspector Andy in Leicester, discovering a few surprises.
We've got a live marathon here.
Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Nottingham, community protection officers Steve and Vicky are continuing their patrol of the city centre, now enforcing the no drinking ban. It's an offence in Nottingham to drink alcohol in a public place. It causes littering, but most importantly, often leads to antisocial behaviour. Their first offender seems pretty happy to comply.
Hello.
Hiya.
There's no drinking in the city centre, I'm afraid. We're going to have to confiscate your drink off you.
But he's only happy to hand the can over after he's had one last very long drink.
There's no alcohol allowed in the city centre. It's a no alcohol designated area. So basically, if we see anybody drinking alcohol, we'll confiscate it from them. I mean, this guy was great, really well-mannered. Couldn't have asked for a better person to confiscate from, really.
But perhaps Steve is a bit quick to judge the mood of the alleged illegal drinkers. Their next potential offender is a much more difficult nut to crack.
Excuse me, where are you going? Come here, mate.
Steve and Vicky have observed a guy drinking whiskey on the street, and it looked like he'd poured some of the alcohol into a young girl's soft drink. Right now, all the guy needs to do is stop and give his name and address to the officers, but this situation has the potential to escalate.
Up the face.
Stop
Language.
swearing, otherwise you're going to be...
Right, that's it. The police are going to be...
The CPOs are in constant contact with the police, so if a situation like this arises, they can call for backup immediately.
November Sierra 1428. Yes, I'm on the Market Square. I attempted an alcohol confiscation from a gentleman. He's emptied his bottle, thrown the bottle at my colleague, and now he's refusing to stop and give us details.
Did I throw the bottle
Is
at
there an officer available to come down and get the details?
You need to tell her. Fact right. No, did I throw the bottle at you?
You need to stop.
As Steve and Vicky wait for the police, it looks like this could be a lengthy standoff. At the Nature Reserve in Eastbrook, South London, Pete, Barking and Dagenham Council's pest controller, is back to do his regular evening rounds, checking the rat traps he's set and baited earlier in the morning.
Basically, I've just placed this trap earlier and just going down to check it. It's a prime spot for rats.
But even after his meticulous preparation earlier in the day, this one's drawn a blank, a typical example of how cunning rats can be.
Rats are really funny. You know, you might not see one for about 2 hours, and then the next minute you might see 3 or 4.
Pete has taken an interest in pest control from an early age, but it's taken him a long time to secure the dream job he loves.
I've been doing this job for about 18 months now. I finally got into pest control when I worked at London Zoo. There's a bloke there who's doing pest control, and I got involved learning bits and pieces of him. Finally caught one. As I said, it's coming on in the evening. Rats are very temperamental. You can either have some curled up, laid back, frightened, get some skitsy, running around the cage and all that. 9 out of 10 they're quite calm. Try and not get bit. As you can see, he's come up from the water by the looks of it because he's soaking wet. I don't want to sort of go in there and put my fingers in there and get bit straight away. So what I do is I tend to reach in with a little stick just to lift this handle up. As I see, I lift the handle up slowly. Reach in, pick it up, pull the rat out, as we can see. And here we have one rat.
The rat will be taken away by Pete and dispatched humanely. One thing's certain, Pete's going to need all his expertise, patience and experience if he's going to win the battle against the rodents at the lake. In Nottingham, Dino and his Neighbourhood Environmental Action Team, or NEAT for short, are making good progress clearing the undergrowth around a disused building in the Radford area of the city. It was a hotspot for drug users, soliciting and fly tippers who used the cover of the undergrowth to conduct their illegal activities. On Dino's crew today is John, a rookie, who's only been with the team for a couple of days.
It's all right. It's
a bit different. I worked in a factory for 3.5 years. It's a job for the council as well. So you only work for the council. It's a job for life, isn't it?
This new job is a world away from John's other career as a professional wrestler.
4 years ago, I got an opportunity to start training for it. So I trained for about a year, and then I've been doing shows ever since. By a week I work for the council, and at the weekend I'm wrestling.
One thing that John's sure to find working for the council is a wonderfully eclectic mix of great characters. He's sure to fit in well. One of the most well-known is Derek the litter picker.
You come to help us, have you?
I want somebody to help me.
Help you? In what way?
Any way they like.
You got any jokes for us, Stacey, or what?
No, not really. It's one big joke being here.
Derek is one of the cleansing operatives. Without people like Derek being on the ground force, obviously reporting all the fly tips and everything, we'd be lost. Well, I'll tell you what, your head's shining that much, it must be picking a lot up. What do you do, polish it every day?
Yes. I go to that barber's and have it cut.
Ah?
About 3 or 4 times a week.
I don't know how you can afford it.
I don't, it's free.
Hey?
It's free. One turn deserves another.
Well, what do you do in turn?
Oh, I can't tell you that.
Across town in Nottingham's city centre, more serious business is on the agenda. Steve and Vicky are still dealing with a rather stubborn alleged illegal drinker, and things are going nowhere.
Yeah,
And that's
if I
why we
offered you a
acted.
big enough bribe, yeah, right.
No, and I resent that, and that's why I'm going to challenge that comment right now.
Whatever. All you coppers are bent.
He's got no grounds to hear these views. I don't know where he's getting them from. Now he just wants to stick around to get on our nerves, basically.
Soon the deadlock is broken with the arrival of a policeman. All the guy's really achieved by this standoff is to alert himself in the future to Steve and Vicky's watchful eyes.
All it would have taken for him to was hand over the bottle and we would have taken his details, job done. But he's made this job a lot larger than what it needed to be.
One of the Grimebusters' jobs that directly affects us up and down the country is the diligent work of the restaurant inspectors, who tirelessly uphold the cleanliness and food hygiene of thousands of food outlets and restaurants. In Leicester, Andy, one of the city's team of inspectors, has decided to make an annual routine visit to a local Indian restaurant. There are a myriad of things that Andy will be looking for, but the worst thing to find is rodents.
If we find a lot of things wrong, then we tend to go back and revisit. If we find a major thing wrong, for example, if we've got mice or no hot water, then we would have to think about closing them down.
Leicester City Council award the restaurants smiley faces. A big smile is fantastic, a grin is good, a blank expression is okay, but a frown is a problem. This restaurant had a blank expression last year. They're obviously hoping now to put a big smile on Andy's face.
It's going very well so far. I'd say there's some minor things wrong, but nothing major. But very pleased. So far it's looking good.
So after an hour of meticulous inspection, the restaurant seems to be greatly improved from last year. The owner may even be up for a coveted smiley face. But that is until Andy takes a quick look under a cabinet on his way out.
Yeah, it just needs a bit of a sweep under there. Oh no. I think we've got a problem.
What's that?
We've got a live mouse under here. Call your pest control. If it comes out, I'll hit it.
This is potentially the worst nightmare for the restaurant owner. Even though it seems that the whole restaurant's hygiene is very good, the presence of rodents could result in the establishment being closed down.
Well, I hope we can keep them open, but live mice in the kitchen, it normally means that we have to close them, unfortunately, until they sort the problem out. Before I make a decision, I will speak to my line manager, my boss.
The discovery of this little mouse now heralds a huge mobilisation of everybody involved to sort the problem as quickly as possible. While Andy rings his boss for advice, the restaurant owner calls his pest controllers to deal with the emergency. Within minutes, the pest controllers arrive. Meantime, the offending mouse has disappeared. But after lengthy inspection by everybody, with no droppings found in the premises or any other evidence of mouse activity, the hole is plugged with wire wool and poison is laid down as a precaution. It seems that the problem is isolated to the one rogue mouse. Looks like the restaurant has escaped closure, but Andy will make weekly visits until he's sure the mouse has gone for good.
I don't think there's enough to close it down. There's no more droppings, and the only droppings are down there, so I think we can sort this out, by coming back on a regular basis.
That one mouse has unravelled all the restaurant's hard work to improve hygiene standards and made sure that the award of a smiley face still eludes them. This time, they'll have to make do with yet another blank expression. In Nottingham, Dino and the NEAT team have completed their work, clearing the fly tips and undergrowth surrounding the disused building. There's been no sign of the murder weapons the CID asked him to look out for, but with the team's hard work, now the residents can hopefully feel a bit more proud of their neighbourhood and a great deal safer, as there's no cover for teenagers to engage in antisocial behaviour. John the Apprentice seems to have done okay too.
Yeah, we're just coming towards the end now, and as you can see, it's nice and light again. There's no real areas for people to come and obviously do sexual activities, take drugs or drink in the area. So it's all nice and clear.
Since the filming of the show, Andy has returned to the restaurant on a weekly basis, and so far there's been no sign of any other mice, and Pete is slowly winning the battle against the rats. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, Enforcement Officer Jarno is not amused.
Oh dear, what have we got here?
Litter Picker Lou is shocked.
Oh, blimey, look at this.
Vince's zero tolerance is paying off.
Time to go home.
And Pest Controller Dave reflects on his career.
Ever since I've been doing the place, I've never killed anything I wasn't supposed to.
It's Saturday in the capital, and Church Street Market just off Edgware Road is in full swing. Jarno, Westminster Council's one-man grime buster, is in good spirits too.
Hey! Westminster!
It's great for him to be reunited with old friends, as the Church Street Market was the beat that heralded the start of his career in waste enforcement for the council.
This is the area I started when I started working for Westminster, and I've worked Church Street Market and the surrounding areas for about a year and a half. It's nice to be back today, seeing a lot of old faces, the people I used to work with.
Saturday is the busiest day of the week for the Church Street Market, and Jarno is out on patrol, enforcing against shopkeepers who throw out their commercial waste in normal domestic black bags.
If I wasn't doing my job, the City Council would be losing approximately £1 million to £1.5 million a year for unpaid waste offences. That's taxpayers' money, so if businesses don't pay for their waste, it's eventually the council taxpayer which will end up footing the bill. We don't want our council taxpayers to pay excessive high amounts of council tax just because people are dumping their rubbish.
The problem for Jarno, especially today with the market so busy, is to differentiate between the stallholders' rubbish, the clearance of which is included in their pitch fees, and the shopkeepers who are illegally sneaking their commercial waste out in the hustle and bustle of the market to avoid payment. But Jarno's seen all these scams before.
Sometimes they do pull a fast one, or they sort of try and sort of persuade me that it's not their waste or whatever it is, but I've been in the job for such a long time and I know what's going on.
So Jarno's up for the challenge. Woe betide anyone who dares to try it on. In the Cotswolds, Pest Controller Dave has arrived at his first call-out of the day, one of his regular haunts, the Cotswolds Wildlife Park near Burford. On the menu today is the usual fare.
Got some cockroaches and some wasps.
If there's one place a cockroach can call five-star luxury, it's a tropical hothouse, complete with water features, plenty of ready food, and a few friends to share their stay with. These particular ones are American cockroaches, different from the German cockroach, normally associated with infesting domestic housing. But as far as Dave's concerned, the nationality of a cockroach is irrelevant.
There, you see, that is a freshly molted cockroach, just hasn't gone red yet. An American cockroach will grow to 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches. These are very small, these are all nymphs. These aren't difficult to kill, it's just that the numbers of them, they'll feed on virtually anything and everything. They'll feed on each other, they're cannibalistic, they'll feed on anything that it needs to survive. That's why they're so successful.
For Dave, the key is to locate where the cockroaches are hiding. Time then to bring out his secret weapon.
This is a camera for getting into the corner so you don't have to move too much stuff about and disturb the birds and etc. You can use them in drains apparently, but I haven't got that far. So there they are. Most successful insect ever, I think. There's some in there, but they've chucked themselves up the back. In these brackets, I shall use a little insecticidal dust. American cockroaches don't take much to knock down.
When using the insecticidal dust, Dave is always vigilant on not letting the dust come into contact unnecessarily with the more precious occupants of the hothouse.
These animals in here are rare animals, so you just want to be as careful as possible with them. So them eating 100 cockroaches with insecticidal dust on them probably wouldn't do them any harm, but I don't want them to eat any. Touch wood, ever since I've been doing the place, I've never killed anything I wasn't supposed to.
For Wolverhampton's proudest litter picker, Lou, and his constant partner in grime, Dave, the continual battle against illegally dumped rubbish continues. But the sun's shining, and their first call of the day initially doesn't seem too bad at all. Just the usual smattering of dog poo.
Oh, what we got here, Dave? Dog mess. Well, it doesn't seem too bad at all.
But that's until Lou peeks to see what's hiding over the fence.
Oh, blimey, look at this. Oh, they've had a go again, eh, they?
Behind the fence is a revolting fly tip, obviously dumped here under the cover of last night. Like Yarno in Westminster, before Lou and Dave can get to grips with it, they need to try and find any evidence in the rubbish to hopefully identify the culprits.
Me and my partner here just go a quick nosy round, see if we can find any evidence as to where it's come from. There's old settees, dog baskets, wicker chairs, newspapers, mop buckets. But as we'll clear it up and we'll just have a nose. If we find any envelopes, addresses, we'll hand them into the office and they can probably investigate it.
But with hefty fines awarded to anyone who's prosecuted for fly tipping, the offenders are getting even more cunning.
People tend to these days. They know they can get fined up to £2,000 on fly tipping. So obviously they'll try and remove as much evidence as they can. So that doesn't leave us much to go on.
But what it does leave, however, is the task of clearing the fly tip. And as always, the heavy stuff gets loaded first.
When I came to work for Wolverhampton Council as a litter picker, and obviously emptying the bins in the streets and the lampposts, I didn't realise I'd be moving furniture. If I wanted a furniture job like this, I'd have probably gone to DFS.
For a lot of us, finding this fly tip on the first job of the day would be seriously annoying, but Lou is made of stronger stuff.
It's not annoying, I'm out here, lovely sunshine. It's probably annoying if there was 10 foot of snow and I've got to struggle through that. But as it happened, we're having one nice day this year, and it's today.
In London's West End, the Church Street Market is busy with bargain hunters, and Yarno, Westminster Council's zero-tolerance enforcer, seems to have found his first illegally presented commercial waste, dumped in black bags rather than the council's grey bags, so avoiding payment for its removal.
Oh dear, what have we got here? Sorry mate, no grey bags today. These are yours, yeah? This is yours. Have you got a grey bag for that, please?
The problem for Yarno with all this rubbish about is to identify which is household waste and which is the cafes.
Oh, it's household waste. Here you can see. Looks like it's household waste. It's got vegetable waste in it, so this is a bag of household waste, that's fine.
But the second bag is definitely the cafes.
That's his. I'm just going to go in and ask him to bring out a grey bag for his waste.
The owner's not so sure, so it's up to Yarno to convince him.
Sorry mate, have you got a grey bag? That one. Both of them need to be grey bags. Have you got a grey bag? It's yours. Come and have a look. Come and have a look, mate.
Eventually, Yarno coaxes the man out to prove his point.
Here, mate, I'll show you. Here. See, that's yours, yeah, and this one is yours as well. This is not the right bag, mate. You need to have it in a grey bag. Bring out a grey bag, and we'll get rid of it.
At last, the guy puts the rubbish in the grey bag and the matter's closed. But Yarno's had all this before.
He used to be quite persistent in offending for commercial waste. It gets a bit tedious after a while. Some things never seem to change.
In Wolverhampton, Lou and Dave have made good progress clearing the larger items from the fly tip. Now it's time to confront Lou's most hated legacy, left by the fly tippers.
As you can see here, we've got an aquarium. Just broken, battered glass. Just imagine your children playing here, falling on that. And in the news at the moment, you hear of all this stabbing. You'd stab yourself. That could be a killer. Why are people so irresponsible and leave something like that when they know children can come round here and play? It does make me angry to think a child could fall on this and just think of the consequences.
But Lou's got very personal reasons for his hatred of discarded broken glass.
When I was a young lad and I was playing actually in the churchyard you do when you're kids, and I jumped over this wall and there was a broken bottle the other side, and it actually took a chunk out my leg here, which took quite a long time to heal because it had gouged it out. And that's probably what I always think about when I'm picking broken glass in, that I had an accident when I was a kid. I went to school with children, you know that, don't you? Yes, I did. Everybody thinks I was always been old.
So with Dave and Lou's hard work, the fly tip is eventually cleared. All that's left to do now is clear some of the dog poo out on the grass.
Rather a large size, I wouldn't like to meet the dog on a dark night.
But on getting up close and personal with the dog poo, there's no chance of it turning Lou's stomach.
No, nothing turns my stomach. The only thing that turns my stomach at times is looking at him. Look at him, my old pal. Number one he is there, David, hey? Look at that smile. My team leader, one of the best. He's top hole, I tell you.
Coming up in part 2, Dave has a go at some wasps at a local riding stables. Lou's day gets more grim as he searches for a dead cat. And we're out with Council Enforcement Officer Vince, busting illegal traders and hot dog sellers on a hectic Friday night in London's West End. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In the Cotswolds, pest controller Dave has sorted the cockroaches at the wildlife park and has arrived at a local riding stables where they've reported a problem with wasps. The wasps have taken up residence in and around a food store, making their home in the cracks in the brickwork.
They're not too active today because it's beginning of August, as you can see, and tipping down the rain, but we'll soon put them right.
There are 3 nests to deal with. Best to get the 2 small ones sorted first before Dave has a go at the big one. The only way to treat wasps' nests is to use insecticidal dust, which affects the wasp's nervous system and also is easily spread into the nest by the wasps coming and going.
You see, there's one coming out all covered in dust there. You see, you know you've hit the spot when you get the white ones coming out. He won't be very happy.
Now Dave's dusted the small ones, time to prepare to hit the big one.
These will get a bit leery.
As well as the pain of getting stung, the problem is that when stinging you, the wasp releases a pheromone that tells the inmates that the nest is under attack, and there's the possibility of thousands of others coming out and joining the fun.
This is the most active of the 3. There'll be quite a bit more action when these are treated. These ones on the outside, they're not really going to bother you, but it's the ones that come out to defend the nest that'll have you. Well, you'll know that within a few seconds of treating it. So if I start legging it, you'll know to follow. Right, shall we do it?
After administering the lethal dust, hundreds of wasps congregate by the nest, but Dave's sure that in a couple of hours all the occupants will have been contaminated by the insecticide. Time to make a swift exit before the possibility of any reprisals.
That one's done. That's their year ended a bit early.
In Wolverhampton, Lou and partner Dave are now on their way to their regular litter picking rounds, but there seems to be no chance today of Lou making good progress as he spied a pigeon slightly worse for wear in the middle of the road.
Dead bird here, David. We've stopped now, just it looks like there's a dead bird on the road. Obviously, we'll clear it up. It'll save any dogs probably running into the road, try to pick it up and have another kill or something like that. So it won't take us too many minutes just to clear it up.
Clearing up roadkills is a major part of Dave and Lou's daily duties. Whether they're pets or just wildlife, it's all in a day's work.
I know one thing, this hasn't died of bird flu.
Clearing the pigeon may be one thing, but when it comes to domestic pets, it's quite another. To delay the boys even further from their litter-picking schedule, they've now been called out to retrieve a dead cat that's been reported by a local resident. But the first thing to do is actually locate it.
The phone call was very vague, so we've got to keep having a nosy. I love animals. I had 3 cats myself. Once they've slowly died of old age and what have you. I suppose I'll die of old age one of these days.
Further down the path, eventually Lou finds the unlucky cat.
Yeah, David, here's the cat. Oh, he does look a sorry sight, doesn't he? This has been dead for quite a while. I think somebody just chucked it here. There's no tags on it or anything like that. What I'll do tonight and the rest of the week, I'll scour our local Express and Star on the lost and found. Somebody may have lost it, and if I find out, and I can probably get in touch with them and I'll tell them where it is. It's sad because it looks like it's a young cat. Now we just get it settled down as nice as we can into the bag. Just tie it up, David.
The cat will be taken in the carcass bag to the local depot, as is the procedure with all roadkills, and it'll remain there tagged for 7 days in the fridge in case anyone claims it. Otherwise, it will be incinerated. Perhaps Lou can now eventually get on with some litter picking. In London's West End, the Church Street Market off Edgware Road is coming to a close. But Jarno is still out patrolling the streets, enforcing against shopkeepers for illegally dumping their commercial waste. Looks like he's got just enough time for one more bust. Finding evidence in the bag of the perpetrator for once is relatively easy.
This is what commercial waste looks like. You know, it's all this bulk packaging from products, probably from a newsagent or an off license. So we'll just try and see if we can get some evidence from these. That's the address. So we'll go in and have a word. Hello. I'm Jarno from Westminster Council, from Environmental Services. You haven't used the grey bags? You've got 2 bags outside. You haven't put them in a grey bag. You need to pay for your waste because now no one's paying for it. You've dumped it, you've fly tipped it now. And I won't issue a fine, I'll just give you a verbal warning.
The shopkeeper reckons he's run out of grey bags, so some stickers on the bags normally used for cardboard boxes will have to do. This time Jarno believes that educating the shopkeeper is the key.
When you do enforcement, you'll educate first. I've just educated the gentleman and I've asked him to put the stickers on, and I've reminded him that if he gets too many waste offences, we will have his licence reviewed. Now, he's an off licence, so if that means that if he has sufficient waste offences on the system, it will be taken into consideration when he renews his licence.
All in all, it's been a long and taxing day for Jarno, but at least it's Sunday tomorrow before the whole process starts all over again on Monday morning. In Wolverhampton, Lou and Dave have at last started their regular litter picking round. With all the call-outs today, you'd expect Lou to be somewhat downbeat, but it'll take a lot more than that to dampen Lou's mood.
Hello girls, having a good day? Lovely, eh? Going to home sunbathing or what? You lucky girls. Do you live round here? Yeah. We'll have 2 cups of tea, all right, no sugar. Ta-da! You're going to have a bit of banter with the girls, are you, as they walk by?
With a hectic but very productive day under his belt, it's a perfect time for Lou to reflect on just how the public perceive the career of a litter picker.
They see us picking litter and they probably think, oh, look at them doing that job, I'd never do that. But I enjoy it, I've never looked down on it. I think some people do look down on you, yeah, just because you're a litter picker. But a lot of people also say, what a good job you're doing. A lot of people say, you'll never be out to work. We probably won't be. But this is a good job, and you leave the streets clean, you can walk away, and you're quite proud.
It's Friday night in London's West End, and over 1 million people are out on the streets enjoying the multitude of bars and restaurants. For ex-professional soldier Vince, now one of Westminster Council's enforcers, this is the perfect time to catch illegal hot dog sellers. All over the West End, the hot doggers ply their illegal trade, selling often over 300 hot dogs from one cart alone in an evening. It's a game of cat and mouse trying to catch the vendors actually selling their hot dogs.
There's people called spotters. The hot dog traders themselves are the ones that actually work on the stalls. However, for every hot dog trader, there's 2 or 3 people that are out there looking for us to alert them to our presence so they can make their getaway.
Normally, all Vince has to do is take a good intake of breath to know he's close.
You can smell hot dogs. Sometimes when they've moved away from an area, you might not be able to see them, but you can definitely still smell them.
Vince has to patrol with support from the police as the hot doggers carry small knives to cut up the bread rolls, which could be used against him. The spotters seem to be one up though on the first bust of the night, and they can't confiscate the trolley.
The reason why we haven't taken the trolleys away is that we haven't seen a sale, so no offence has been committed. So that we've told these lot to pack up and move away for the rest of the night. If we see these guys again and they're trading, then we're going to prosecute and seize their trolleys.
But it's not just hot doggers that Vince is after. He'll bust anybody who's street trading illegally, however creative they may be.
Time to go home.
What is it?
Time to go home.
Oh.
Yeah.
He's filming.
Yeah, time to go home, guys. What's happening here? These guys don't have a licence to actually do the portraits.
We want license, you don't give us license.
However, they don't have a licence, so we're actually moving them on to go home.
Whether the street portrait painters want a licence or not is no concern of Vince's, especially now they've caught a hot dogger red-handed.
My colleague has seen the sale, so the hot dog's been sold. So we've got grounds now for the offence have taken place. Therefore, the guy is now going to have his details taken off him, and we'll be reported to the city solicitors for the offence of illegal street trading. And when we're dealing with the hot dog traders, you will get people saying, well, what about me? I still want my hot dog. You wouldn't want to be eating one of these anyway. Partially cooked sausages, not kept cold, ready to get thrown back onto the hot plate. There's potential there for food poisoning. Also, look at this way, there's no hand washing facilities on the trolley. So if he goes down and uses the toilet, there's a all point that he can come back up and he'll be next thing you know, be flipping your sausage before putting it into the hot dog bun. I wouldn't want that, would you?
But on busting the final hot dogger of the evening near Oxford Circus, Vince gets the opportunity to point out yet another reason not to touch the merchandise.
Sometimes in here you'll find what does look like to be a bottle of olive oil. However, it's not. It's what they urinate in and actually still keep in the trolleys along with the food.
All in all, it's been a pretty successful night for Vince and the team, with 3 trolleys taken off the streets. In total, Vince confiscates over 500 trolleys a year, proof that all the hard work is slowly paying off. Since the filming of the show, alas, no one claimed Lou's dead cat within the statutory 7 days. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, pest controller Pete uncovers a few cockroaches.
Even with them, I'm going home, I'm going back to lorry driving.
Extreme cleaners John and Kev give up.
You're fighting a losing battles. Every week it's like this.
Litter Picker Lou's fishing trip gets off to a bad start. And sewer team Bill and Simon fall out.
Pass my friend the rod over there, like that.
In Barking, Pete, the council's pest controller, has been called out to a 3-bed house to catch up with some of his regular punters, German cockroaches. The tenant has reported seeing more and more during the day, which in itself doesn't bode well. If the cockroaches are cruising about in the daylight hours, it means that as they're normally nocturnal, the infestation could be huge. On first inspection, Pete's prognosis is somewhat concerning.
I would say a good few hundred. Good few hundred, I would say. Especially if you come at night. Only because I can see by the stages of the nymphs on the top here. They're just running everywhere. If you see them during the day walking around in cupboards and all that, you will have a problem. I'll guarantee that once I pull these out, that there should be a fair amount because it's warm and it's dark. It's a good hiding place for them.
Before Pete delves behind the white goods, he administers pinprick-sized blobs of poison in the dark recesses of the worktops and the cupboards. This poison is utterly delicious to the cockroach, and as cockroaches are also cannibalistic, secondary poisoning will knock out loads more as the others eat the carcasses. But time now to see what's behind the fridge.
Right, basically what I want to do is, seeing the numbers of cockroaches, I will be surprised if we ain't got a lot behind here. So I want to try and pull them out on these and have a look behind them.
But nothing can prepare Pete for what's lurking in the dark.
This is one of the worst I've ever seen.
With an infestation of this magnitude, Pete's going to have to use the whole arsenal of poisons available to him to even stand a chance of getting the upper hand. Across the borough in Dagenham, Simon and Bill, one of the council's sewage clean-up teams, have also arrived at their first job of the day. Simon's regular partner, the old master himself, Terry, is off sick for a few weeks, so Simon's got his hands full with new partner Bill.
Terry's off for a few days.
No, he's wandering.
Oh, he's wandering still. Oh, yeah, he's still wandering. He'd better hurry up and come back and do some work. Mind you, it's gave me a chance to be on the telly, innit?
Yeah.
Thank you, Terry. So kind.
Not only has Simon got landed with Bill, this blockage at some flats has the potential to be a nightmare, as there are so many properties that the boys might have to gain access to find where the pipes are blocked. Best to have a look under a few accessible sewer covers, all of which seem to be blocked. The diagnosis is that all roads lead to a back garden in a house next to the block of flats. The key is to get access to the garden and to clear what's called an interceptor, or the crossroads where all the sewers meet. There's just one problem, no one's answering, but for Bill, these challenges are what it's all about.
It's always a challenge. Every job's a challenge because you're always constantly using your brain. Well, work in the council, we don't normally have a brain, but but some of us have. I just love my job. I don't like the blokes I work with, don't tell them though.
Oh dear. You're wrong, aren't you?
Press don't like the look of me.
With Bill left realising that the person's not in, hence why they won't open the door to him, and the risk of raw sewage flooding back into some 50 flats, Simon calls up Bree, one of the environmental health officers, who can try and get the homeowner to allow them access.
Environmental health will be here in 5 minutes.
Nice young lady with lots of powers. We ain't got none. Because we're the underdogs. We're just small people. Which is the dirty workers.
So it's just Simon's luck that he'll have to wait with Bill till Bree turns up. In Wolverhampton, Lou and Dave, the city's proudest litter pickers, are on their daily rounds keeping the city rubbish-free. After a hard morning's picking, Lou's found a fly tip that'll come in handy.
Having 5 minutes break, lads. We'll clear this up.
The fly tip comprises of a huge bag containing what looks like the contents of a child's bedroom and the rather decorative sofa.
Little dolly. David, do you want this dolly to take home?
No, thank you.
No, you're all right.
Before they deal with the sofa, best to get the bag of clothes on the van.
1, 2, 3, and it's gone.
Lou may have seen all this before, but it doesn't stop him getting slightly frustrated.
Look at this. If you buy settees today, normally where you buy a new settee from, they'll take it back. But this is the general public. They're not all the same. Just, I can't understand why they've done that. When the council, if you give them a ring, they will come and collect it.
Once the sofa is safely aboard, Lou and Dave can move on for a little bit more litter picking, and as always, a good opportunity for a little banter with the public.
Come on there, kid, how you doing? All right? No punches this week. That ain't been on police 5, has it, that scooter? You'll be all right then. Have a nice day here, kid. Yeah, we have a bit of a laugh with the public. David's always telling me jokes. He never stops. Look, he's even doing a dance there with a plank of wood. Go on, David, go for it. Whee! Look at him.
It may not seem it, but Lou wants to get this alley cleared as soon as possible, because today he's off to indulge in his passion for a spot of fishing.
This is my passion. Fishing comes second. You better not tell the wife that. She comes first, really. Yeah, I do like fishing. It's what you work for, don't you? And if you've got a bit of interest, it's half the battle. You come out to work, you earn a few bob, and you can go and spend it then, and on your own leisure. You must have leisure time.
With the alley looking sparkling and the van loaded, Lou can now knock off and head to the lake. Embarking after moving the fridge in the kitchen, pest controller Pete is shocked how bad the infestation of cockroaches really is.
It's one of the worst I've come across for the sheer number of adults.
Against this huge number of cockroaches, his syringe full of poison is somewhat pointless on its own. He needs something more immediate. Time to evaluate a plan of action.
So what we're going to do, I'm going to put some sticky white rope traps down so they run straight in and they get stuck on it. By tomorrow, he most probably might have 50, 60, maybe 100 in there. which means that's better than just using the poison. It's just a quicker way of zapping them.
The sticky pads attract the cockroaches to the bait in the centre, but they get stuck on the cardboard surrounding the bait, so hopefully that way the numbers can be reduced in a matter of hours. So with the sticky trap laid, best to confront what's behind the second fridge. What is revealed is Pete's worst nightmare. Literally hundreds more roaches in all states of development, from adults to young nymphs of all sizes. This infestation is getting out of control, and Pete could be close to giving up.
Leaving with them, I'm going home, I'm going back to lorry driving. Basically, we know the problem, we can see the problem, we just got to get on top of the problem.
Pete's got to act fast as they're multiplying before his very eyes.
As you can see, you got a pair there mating. So we end up with another 30, 40 babies, which I don't think really matters to him at the moment after seeing all this lot up here and round there. If someone's got a phobia of insects, then, you know, they would have to move out. There's no way they'd live in this house.
If what was behind the fridge is horrendous, the only bit of good news is the sticky pad is almost immediately having an effect.
Just a minute ago, you see me bait this up and pull it down there. We open this up, and that is in a space of how many minutes? Minute and a half, 2 minutes.
After really taking stock of the situation, Pete feels he has no option now but to wheel in the big guns. Let's hope this insecticide will allow him to at least start winning the battle on the thousands of roaches. Just across town in Dagenham, Bree, the environmental health officer, has arrived to help sewage teams Simon and Bill.
This is Bree, the environmental health officer. She's come here to sort our problem out for us.
After a quick explanation of how they need to gain access to the garden of the house, Bree decides, using all the powers available to her, that the best form of attack is to drop a card through the letterbox and wait for the woman to call her. So it's just left to Bill to cap the dead-end job off with another slight indiscretion.
I've just stepped in some doggy poo and I'll stink.
There's a joint decision to cut their losses and get on to the next job. Hopefully the woman will get in touch with Bree before the situation deteriorates any more, and Simon and Bill can eventually get into her garden and clear the blockage. In Leicester, like all our cities across the UK, the scourge of fly tipping is the #1 priority for the councils to deal with. Today, Environmental Health Officer Alison and her crack clearance team are going to sort out a revolting alleyway behind a row of houses that's been filled with all manner of household detritus.
What we've got here is an alleyway which serves 6 houses. We've written to all the occupiers of all 6. It is their responsibility to get it cleared, and we gave them 14 days in which to get it cleared. Nothing has been cleared. There's been no attempt by any of them to clear it.
No one but the perpetrators know who left the rubbish, so unfortunately the 6 householders are responsible for its removal. So now it's down to John and Kev to wade in and sort out the problem, and the residents are going to get a nice little bill for all their hard work. Even though it's frustrating clearing these fly tips, Kev always looks on the bright side.
Keeps us in work. Simple as that. The more they throw away, the more we work.
But you're fighting a losing battle. Every week it's like this.
Yeah.
Once you clear it, it'll be the same next week and the week after.
But working in these tight conditions poses other problems.
It isn't going to be easy getting this out, but we're used to it. We do it every day. You can't get his wheels down.
No.
So there's another hazard, you see. We've got these problems. All the filters, but we'll have to carry it out.
But with no trolley to get the heavy stuff out, this job could be a long one. Coming up in part 2, Simon and Bill have better luck with the sewers. Pete unleashes his secret weapon, Lou gets his rod out, and the boys get to grips with the fly tip. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Wolverhampton, litter picker Lou has left the unending struggle against the city's grime behind and is indulging in his favourite passion for fishing, but the trip doesn't get off to the best of starts. For Lou, these lakes on the outskirts of Wolverhampton are paradise. Armed with the latest fishing gear, now safely transported to its resting place in a prime position on the lake, Lou can start to get his rods out and forget about the daily stress.
If I don't catch a fish, the old saying is, all the gear and no idea.
It takes Lou a while to admit that he was actually once a match fisherman, and the chances of catching a load of fish today are weighted heavily in his favour.
Oh yeah, this is lovely. This is relaxation at its best. Obviously, if you're match fishing, it's all go, but I don't match fish now. I've just taken it in my stride. Nice leisurely fishing, just lovely. Look at the weather, eh? What more could you ask for?
But it's a bit early in the day's proceedings for Lou to totally switch off.
You must always remember that when you're fishing. Take your litter home. I don't want it at the pool, and they certainly don't. Keep it tidy, and they'll always let you come back and fish again.
In Dagenham, southeast London, there's no chance of a break for Simon and Bill. They've moved on to their next job, along with Bree to keep them company, or just to keep an eye on Bill, who's still got a little whiff about him from the dog poo he stood in.
I was going to say, could be you.
It could be me.
Go and stand.
You can't do that to me. It's not very nice to talk
No,
to me
I'm
like that.
asking you to stand over there.
The tenant of the house has also reported a strong smell, but this one's coming from her drains, so up to the boys to investigate further.
The lady next door is complaining of a smell coming up. So what we're going to do now, we're going to check this drain here, see if it's full, and then what we'll do afterwards, we're going to knock 2 doors down and find out if they're up, and see if the smell's coming in with it.
So it's time to get reacquainted with an old friend. The sewer run is obviously blocked. It's now left to Bill to finally get his tools out to try and free the blockage.
Right, what I'm going to do now, I've got a 6-inch plunger. It's very good. I'm going to put it down into the interceptor, because as you can see it's full. I'm going to try and give it a couple of push to try and free it.
After a quick shifty with the plunger, the pipe may seem clear, but Bill's got Simon to bring the van round so he can give the run a quick jet, a job that often renders Bill smelling even worse than he does now.
You're talking to the bad man who always gets covered. When you're jetting at full pelt, you get all the water coming back at you, and if you hit the wrong spot, bingo, you get everything.
In Leicester, Kev and John are making good progress with the clearance of the fly tip in the alleyway. But with all their hard work, the days are over for anyone bothering to appreciate what they're doing and sort them out a quick cuppa.
In this day and age, you just thought someone, it's raining, it's a dirty job, someone would nip out with a cup of tea for you. On the council, all them years ago, there'd be 4 or 5 people out offering you a drink. But now it's very rare.
So no danger of a cuppa, but there are other potential dangers lurking in the rubbish.
Another danger is the rats as well, but I ain't seen one yet, but I'm expecting 1 or 2 in a minute. I'm not a fan of rats or mice.
So it's just left to the lads to keep their spirits up themselves, and John's fear of rodents is always a good place for Kev to start.
I want to get John with this. The trap is set. Yeah, get that post started, John.
But John's so busy, Kev has to point out his little friend.
What's that? Oh, you bleeder. I like that one, I like that. That makes the job worth doing when you see something like that.
A mattress has been the real stumbling block in clearing the alleyway, but with that removed and all the other big stuff on the van, it looks like the rest of the horrible mess is going to be pretty easy going. In Dagenham, Pete is having a final attempt to deal with the infestation of cockroaches in one of the council's houses. He's now wheeling out his insecticide to hopefully give the cockroaches a real run for their money, but they're already fighting back.
I've actually got one on me there. I can feel it, I can't see it. I've got them all on my canister as well. Just all on you, ain't they? Alright, this is stuff I'm using, Fendona. We use them on cockroaches in big manifestations. And as you can see, look, there's a pair here breeding. You know, we've got our work cut out.
So with no time to waste, Pete liberally sprays the Fendona all round the kitchen. The spray won't kill the cockroaches immediately, but should have a drastic effect on them over the next few weeks. He'll have to return in 3 weeks to take stock of how all his various poisons and traps have affected the roaches' population. Meantime, the tenant will just have to watch where he's putting the washing up. For Pete, though, it's vital that he doesn't take any of the roaches home with him. A quick look reveals one's already planning a bid for freedom, and there's also a few more on the pavement.
1 there, 2, 3.
Best then to meticulously check everywhere.
Basically, I've got to strip right down to virtually nothing. I might seem a bit OT over the top, but at the end of the day, you see the infestation in there. I don't want that in my house, so I prefer to take this procedure. I know I ain't got the best body, but there you go. This is the worst I've had. I've never had this many on me.
After spraying down not only himself but also the camera crew, Pete is pretty sure he isn't taking any presents home with him, so hopefully the infestation will remain solely in the unfortunate tenant's kitchen. In Dagenham, Simon's got the van up and running for Bill to jet the run and clear the sewer. Bill may have been soaked by the jet before, but there could be other potential problems in using the jet for the residents.
If you jet up into it wrong, you can go up to the slipper that goes into the people's house, like goes into the toilet, which that can be dangerous because then you end up blowing the toilet off the wall. But hopefully I'm too experienced enough not to do that. And hopefully no one's sitting on the toilet.
So Bill gives the jet a go, this time hopefully with no blowbacks. Soon enough, the froth in the run gives a clue as to the nature of the blockage.
Right, the smell was coming up into the lady's house 2 doors down. And what it is, a load of soap powder was blocking it.
With the run now clear of soap powder, a sense of satisfaction is in the air.
It's good when you get the actual job done, and if you do clear it, it is quite exciting really, because you've cleared the job.
All that's left now to do is for Bill to carefully return the tools of the trade to Simon over the fence.
Pass my friend the rod over there, like that.
Wrong one, in the motor.
The only downer on the day is after returning to the first job, the woman is still not in, so the boys will have to return another day, probably very soon. Up in Leicester, John and Kev have made short work of the fly tip under very difficult, cramped conditions. And to top things off, the boys are having to move a bicycle that a passer-by has parked in the alleyway without any consideration for what they're doing.
You've got to keep the taxpayers happy, John. Yeah. When you're trying to do a job like this, it needs doing, and to put obstacles in the way like that, it's not good, is it?
It's obvious what we're doing with the council and we're clearing the back alley out. What are we doing? I'm on the beach in Africa.
Whether the people appreciate their work or not, John and Kev have made a great job of the alleyway. Another illegal fly tip sorted, but for how long? At his favourite lakes on the outskirts of Wolverhampton, Litterpicker Lou has been soaking up the tranquility of his surroundings and enjoying a bumper haul of fish.
I think if a man's fishing for the day and he's catching fish, it puts a smile on his face.
As the peace and serenity of the early evening draws in, Lou's hooked one of his favourites.
I think it's a tench. Now, I haven't really told you, but tench is a fish that I love and absolutely adore to catch. Now look at that for a fish. It's so slimy, it's unbelievable. If you try and hold that, you won't hold it. Oh, just like a little snake. Words don't explain the feel of a tench to me. Go back, baby.
The passion for fishing was instilled in Lou by his 87-year-old father-in-law. For Lou, fishing is all about taking time to relax and reflect, always appreciating the city that he loves.
I've been in Wolverhampton since I was 18, which is a big part of my life. I'm in the 60s now. I've always liked to come back to Wolverhampton. Doesn't matter when I was working away from home. It was always lovely to come back to Wolverhampton.
You might think that working on the streets, dealing with the detritus of everyday life, might make him despair, but not a bit of it.
No, I'd never despair at any society. I'm just glad to be here myself. We're all equal, we're all the same, we're all born the same, we'll all go out the same. I just enjoy life.
Since the filming of the show, Peter's returned to the cockroach house, but alas, there's more work to do. On their return, Bill and Simon eventually got access to the block sewer, and John and Kev's alley is still as clean as they left it. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, pest controller Dave cleans out some crocodiles.
The shorter time you're in here, the better.
Litterpicker Lou gets a top score.
180.
House clearers Bill and Luke have a lucky escape.
This is what we have to put up with.
And Ratman Pete's on the trail of a wily rodent.
Oh, ma'am, she said there's a rat there with a baby in its mouth. Had a baby in its mouth.
Like cities all over the UK, Wolverhampton has its fair share of problems dealing with the legacy of drug abuse. The city constantly tries to stay one step ahead of the user's total disregard for the dangers posed by leaving their drug paraphernalia lying around, where local residents, and especially children, could get pricked by a discarded needle with potentially life-threatening consequences. Today, council enforcer John has gathered together a crack team to tackle one of the drug users' favourite hangouts in some woods used by children as a thoroughfare between the housing estates and local playing fields.
This area here, it's only a matter of 15-20 yards from the play area. It's used as a drug den for people shooting up. We've got down here, we've got, as you can see, the needles, and it's a nightmare for us to clear up. It's frightening what could happen. One of these kids comes along here and they can get infected seriously by these needles. We're going to arrange for a litter pick, but it's a specialised team that has to come in and remove this type of waste.
The specialist team called upon to tackle the dangers in the woods, and none other than Wolverhampton's proudest litter pickers, Lou and partner Dave, fully protected against any eventuality. Let's hope the lads can rise to the challenge. In Dagenham, East London, Pete, the council's pest controller, has been called to a house by an old lady who seems to be sharing her garden with an extremely unwelcome visitor.
Well, we've got a lady here on the corner, and we've got a rat problem in the back garden by all accounts. It's possible we might be lucky and see something today. All right, pest control.
Oh, thank God for that. You just missed him. You just missed the thing.
Have we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just missed him.
Just missed the rat.
Just missed the rat.
He may have missed the rat's morning constitutional, but Pete's determined to get as much information as possible on the rat's daily habits, and experience has told him the best place to start.
It's always worth asking people instead of trying to go out there and find the rats or mice or cockroaches. If you ask them, they give you a narrow down because they see them all the time. Well, I don't live here, she does. So it narrows my work, it makes my job a little bit easier.
The lady is only too happy to fill Pete in as to what it's like sharing her garden with the wily rodent.
He came along here,
Yep.
crossed here,
Yep.
jumped over there,
Yep.
and went under the shed. His daughter was sitting here,
Yep.
and when I said, I'm sure I've seen something run by there, and she looked and said, oh ma'am, she said there's a rat there with a baby in its mouth. Had a baby in its mouth. A young baby with no skin on.
On this occasion, the information isn't too relevant, so Pete needs to investigate further himself.
Oh, it's locked. Let me see the rat, I locked it.
The rat has been using the cover of the woman's fence to go out foraging at the end of the garden, probably, Pete reckons, on the litter left by the local children.
We've got a little hole there going out into the fence. There could have been kids gone, bought McDonald's, which is only up the road anyway from here. So they've thrown the box down. Of course, the rat comes out. You know what kids are like, throwing it all on the floor, not in the bin. So they've picked it up, dragged it through, and just most probably chewed bits and pieces there.
Now Pete's found the probable food source, he can meticulously evaluate what he's up against.
They're very slow, really, rats, when they run. They sort of arch their back like a ferret, and they're sort of like that movement all the time when they run, and they're sort of scattering. So they like to be a bit like undercover, like an SAS bloke, really, basically. They come out and they just want to be in the sort of smallest gap and work their way through. So they come down here, most probably under the table here, drops down there, makes a little dash to the shed, have a look around, waits till he hears no noise, and then he just ventures its way out and goes somewhere down there.
Pete's got a good idea now of how the rat's operating, so armed with vital clues as to where he's going to lay the poison, he keeps the lady up to speed. But suddenly, from under the shed, the culprit makes an appearance.
It's a big one. That is a big one. Tell by the eye.
With the rat keeping a watchful eye, there's no time to lose for Pete to hatch a cunning plan. In Westminster, the council's zero-tolerant grime buster Yarno is out on his rounds. For Jarno, after his first discovery of the morning, he's got a bee in his bonnet about private commercial waste contractors who don't do their job.
Well, we'll just have a look at this waste to see where it's from.
With a quick rummage around, it's soon clear that this is no ordinary rubbish.
By appointment to the His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Edinburgh. Very naughty.
Posh packaging or not, it's all rubbish to Jarno, and the perpetrators need to be held to account. Time to knock on a door.
Yeah, it seems that they're closed, so I'll leave this with a warning notice. That will be the end of the story.
But perhaps Jarno's a bit quick to cut and run. He might just try another approach.
Shall I ring the bell? This is annoying.
Oh, hello, good morning. Westminster Council, Environmental Services.
All right, yeah.
I thought you were closed. It's about your rubbish at the end of the alleyway.
Yeah.
Why is it still there?
I don't know, they collect it every day, don't they?
It's often a surprise to businesses that their contractors haven't done their job, and now they've got Jarno to deal with. Jarno's directed to the front of the shop to dig a little deeper, and he's quick to try and ram home his point.
The problem is a few of your neighbours are spitting fire at the moment.
After a very helpful discussion with the shop assistant, it seems the woman confirms they've been let down by the contractors yet again. Jarno will now have to deal with the rubbish. So Jarno can go on his way happy that this situation's been resolved without the need for a fine, and he's even going to get his council team to clear the rubbish. If you go down to the woods today in Wolverhampton, you'll find litter pickers Lou and Dave togged up and ready to face the scourge of discarded needles, threatening the safety of local school children.
Obviously you could have a young child here playing in the woods, decides to hide here because of his mates playing hide and seek, and the next thing he stood on a needle.
Not only won't the junkies get rid of their needles responsibly, they make the lad's job even more dangerous by hiding all manner of stuff in the trees.
This is the frightening part. They're not always under your feet. They're in the trees as well. They've probably left them there ready for the next time they come down here, but they won't find them the next time, will they? Very good find that, lads. Thank you very much.
The woods may be infested with these lethal syringes, but there's a real feeling amongst the boys working with Lou that they're winning the battle in Wolverhampton.
It's an ongoing battle, especially areas like this, but I do think in Wolverhampton here that we are winning. You know, we've got good people, members of staff really working hard. We go through the night working, we round the clock, to be fair. So I do think standards are improving in Wolverhampton.
In the Cotswolds, pest controller Dave has arrived at his regular haunt, the Cotswolds Wildlife Park. But today is no ordinary day. His quarry may be American cockroaches as normal, but this time they're in with the crocodiles.
You get cockroaches in some of the heated enclosures. Today it happens to be the crocodiles. Unfortunately, she's recently laid eggs. We just have to play it a bit safe. So that's why you guys are going to be outside.
With the help of a couple of keepers, a broom and a bit of wood, the crocs are kept at bay as Dave runs the gauntlet to get to the water feature where the cockroaches reside.
Now we're in, and they'll keep those crocs up there. I'm going to spray these rocks, and because this is where the cockroaches get in.
To us, living with crocodiles is hardly ideal, but to the cockroaches it's heaven.
It is a perfect environment for them. We're looking at sort of 80, 90 degrees in here, and probably 80 to 90% humidity, and it is ideal for American cockroaches.
Applying the insecticide soon stirs the cockroaches, trying to escape the intoxicating fumes.
There's one coming out, gasping for breath. The spray's not going to affect the crocs because one, they're in the water and etc. most of the time, and the crocodiles don't climb, so that the insecticide's up on these surfaces here that are decorative, and it won't last an awful long time in here because of the humidity and the temperature.
The female croc is beginning to get a bit frisky. Could be time to make a swift exit.
We need to get out because the crocodiles get stressed, and we don't want to do that because they're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but they do suffer from stress. So the shorter time you're in here, the better. We just need to get the male to show himself, and we can get out, or I can get out. These guys have got to fend for themselves.
Now the keepers know where the male is, Dave can make his escape. Coming up in part 2, Pete tries to get one up on the rat, Dave confronts some hornets, Lou's needle nightmare continues, and we're out on the night shift with street flushers Dave and Byrne dealing with their biggest hindrance, other people. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. At the old lady's house, Pete the pest controller has conducted a diligent survey into the habits of the unwelcome rodent that's taken up residence in her garden. While Pete's in the conservatory, the rat boldly continues on his daily rounds as the old lady offers some more advice.
Now, shall I tell you why they always make their home here? Because it's all light, very light round here of a night, but the big wall shelters that bit off. That's why they always come here, love, because nobody can see and run against that wall. This is the 4th time we've had it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it no more. It's either that or moving.
So the pressure's on for Pete to sort the rat out for good. After all his hard work, Pete reckons that the rat has made his home under this concrete paving stone.
I don't know if anything's there, but if anything is under there, it knows I'm here already. It's got 2 things, either bite you and stay and hold its ground. If it's got babies, you will have a problem. It will stand its ground. What I do is I gradually lift it up slowly. Well, we ain't got a rat, but we've got a frog.
So after all his hard work, Pete's managed to upset a small frog, but at least he's located the hole. So Pete pops in a bag of poison and another one under the shed. The poison is only attractive to rats, so there's no danger to the frog.
Job done. Another happy customer.
I'll be happy when I don't see him no more.
Within a few days, Pete returns to find the rat's taken the bait, and the lady can now at last have her garden back all to herself. Up in Wolverhampton, litter picker Lou thought he'd just about finished the blitz on the drug den in the woods.
That's not for your everyday turkey, that's for burning the drugs.
But he's found yet another stash of lethal syringes only a few metres away.
You've probably got in the region here 10, 20, 30, 40. You're probably talking at least 80 syringes and paraphernalia, of which we'll start now to box up.
But to make matters worse, Lou's seen another problem adorning the tree opposite.
Now, do you know we've got a dartboard here? If you want to turn round, you can see the dartboard in the tree. There you are. Not many double tops there, though. What do you think of that? 180!
So using his special gloves, Lou carefully removes the deadly syringes from the tree. In total, Lou and the boys have recovered over 300 needles and huge quantities of drug paraphernalia on this morning alone. Boss John seems happy with the progress.
Well, now we've removed all or most of the needles that we've found, we can get the guys in now to tidy all the litter up and the rubbish that is in there. But hopefully in about 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, all this now will be cleared away and tidy.
With their diligent and dangerous work complete, hopefully the school children who use these woods as a thoroughfare to the playing fields can go on their way, pretty sure that they won't fall foul of being pricked by a rogue needle left by the totally irresponsible junkies. For the grimebusters across the UK, keeping our streets free of rubbish and bin bags is one thing, but what happens to the bulkier items like furniture, sofas and kitchen cabinets that people throw out? In Barking, East London, Bill and Luke make it their daily duty to visit the borough's council estates to pick up the bigger items that the residents chuck out of the flats. One of the most common items are mattresses.
I mean, look at this, look. I mean, this looks there's nothing wrong with it. All right, there's a few stains on it, but you wouldn't want to sleep on it though, would you? But there's people that would in garages. Every single day we're doing this every day, 3 times a day, practically 2 to 3 times a day. Sometimes it could go into 4.
Each block of flats has what's called the bulk room for the residents to put their unwanted furniture. But going into these and the estate's garages, sometimes Luke gets more than he bargained for.
I'm wondering what's going to be behind his doors half the time, really. Well, it was basically went in the garage as normal, went to lift up a mattress, and basically there was just 2 people laying underneath it. We went to walk out the back to see what else was in there, and not realising there's 2 bodies laying underneath sleeping. I ran.
Not only are there a few surprises in the bulk rooms, often Bill and Luke's job can be extremely dangerous, thanks to a small minority of the more unruly locals.
This is what we have to put up with. You know, silly things like this. I mean, I've had them spitting out the window, chucking money out the window. You see what happened, though? He must have slammed the window and it's broken. And, I mean, nearly hit Luke. You see there was a couple of inches off of Luke, hit Luke in the head. You could have filmed him with a lump of glass sticking out of his head just now, you know? It winds you up, yeah. I mean, some people could be nice, so, you know, you get the odd few, same as any walk of life, I suppose, isn't it?
For Luke and Bill, these dangers are an ever-present threat, but as ever, their commitment and dedication to the job is generally much appreciated by the local residents. In the Cotswolds, pest controller Dave has successfully dealt with the cockroaches in the crocodile enclosure at the wildlife park, and now feeling buoyant about his chances with another of God's dangerous creatures. He's come to a house near Stow-on-the-Wold that's home to a huge nest of hornets.
Put the suit on just in cases, and then all I've got to do then is just pull the veil up if they do get a bit leery.
Hornets are about 4 times bigger than wasps, and their sting packs a serious punch. Multiple stings have been known to be fatal, but even a single one isn't that pleasant.
I've only ever been stung once with a hornet on top of the head, and I can vouch for how much that hurts. It lasted a good 8 hours, that one did.
Time now, though, to assess the situation.
They're travelling into a gap up by the joist, up into the roof space. So the best thing to do will be to inject it with some insecticidal dust. That should coat the nest and to get into the entrance. And then as the hornets travel in and out, they'll carry the insecticide into the nest, and that'll spread amongst them and destroy them.
Rather than using a ladder, Dave's plan of attack is to use the sprayer on a pole to avoid getting too close to the nest.
I'm going to have to drop it quick because they'll follow the duster down. That's what's attacking them as far as they're concerned. That's it, the spot. That's it. I was going right into the nest, I'll bet.
As some of the hornets succumb to the insecticide, it seems strange that Dave can't help but to have huge respect for these amazing creatures.
You look at one under a microscope, it's like it's off of Star Trek. They are an impressive thing. You can't take anything away from them, let's put it that way. They've been doing it a lot longer than we have, and they're still around. Shame they're in the wrong place, but there we are.
It's Friday night in the City of London, and street flushers Dave, Byrne and Chaz are starting another shift. It's their job to not only hose down the city's streets, keeping them dust and litter free, but also they have to respond to call-outs throughout the night to clear away pavement pizzas, human faeces, blood from street fights, and anything else that may constitute the requirement for a strong stomach. But the first job of the night is a bit difficult to find.
First job of the night, we've had a call-out for a pavement pizza in Beach Street on the north side, and we can't seem to find it. I think the police have spotted it and called it in. So we've got to act. We've got to find something, and if there's nothing there, we've got to make sure there's nothing there, because if they come back later and see that it's not been done, we could get a defect, which would cost the company money.
After a few minutes searching, eventually Dave and the lads find a somewhat pale imitation of a real pavement pizza.
We found something that looks like it might have been a sick at one stage. I don't know how long it's been here, but we're going to clean it up anyway. Oh, well gutted. I was looking forward to a big juicy pavement pizza, and all we got is a stain. But maybe next time.
Many true words spoken in jest, but with a little disinfectant, the risk of a defect is washed away. Now Dave and the boys can get on with the real night's work of flushing the streets. But tonight is really busy, and for Dave this is a nightmare, mainly because loads of revellers out on the street can really slow his progress. But as always, he bites his lip.
Just dancing.
It's all right, mate. You're doing well. I'm surprised you didn't fall over.
For Dave, it was the solitude of the night shift that was so appealing when he first started.
No, I've never regretted working nights. I prefer it. I really do prefer it. I mean, I'm not good around big crowds of people. I'm not good working around big crowds of people. That's why I like nights. But nights is getting crowded now, so I'll have to do a different shift. I don't know what one.
The solitude Dave craves may be being slowly compromised, but there's always something left on the street to cheer him up.
Yeah, we've just seen a pavement pizza over there, so just over the road, and it's a nice big juicy one, so I'm pleased with that. Just making up a bit of dilute J's fluid. A bit of a smell to this one, because it's fresh. Burton, do you want to try and get all that out with a squeegee? You might need your tongue for that bit up there. Now look at that for professionalism.
With a quick wash and brush down, the pizza's history.
A lot of chunks in it, but it's quite watery.
But to change the mood a little, Dave's night just got more rewarding.
We've got a nice bit of dog turd to clean up here, something a bit different. We like a bit of variation on here, it keeps it interesting. But there's no way to know for sure whether it was human or animal. But the kind members of the public have trod it in a bit. It does make it a bit harder because it's been spread about. Excrement's definitely the worst smelling of what we have to clean up.
Clearing the poo inspires Dave to reflect on other highlights he's cleaned up over the years.
The best one, I mean, well, it's not the best, none of them are good. But the one that I most remember cleaning up was a walnut whip. And I just can't imagine how the person sort of done it. They must have had really good hip movement. But that wasn't, I don't remember it for the smell, I remember it for the shape. I remember one pavement pizza we cleaned up was like a blancmange. It was on the edge of a curb. So we went to pick it up and it just fell off and it never fell apart and it just wobbled like a jelly. So, knows what they've been eating.
Highlights from the past give way to the grind of finishing off tonight's duties, clearing a cross grid of cement. Oh, for another memorable pavement pizza. Since the filming of the show, Bill and Luke continue to face some unruly residents, and Dave will be back in a few months to yet again take on the wrath of the Crocs. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, pest controller Pete is on the trail of bedbugs.
They don't actually bite you, they inject you.
Sewerman Bill reflects on dinner.
Looks like a stew I had last night. Didn't have so many lumps in it though.
And restaurant inspector Johnny enjoys the delights of just another regular shift.
Unfortunately, you just missed a run across the ground.
In Dagenham, East London, Pete the pest controller's war on the borough's unwelcome guests continues. This morning, he's been called back for the fourth time to a flat where the family are suffering from an infestation of bedbugs, one of the most difficult insects to eradicate, but this time he's upped the ante with some serious insecticide.
Well, we've got another exciting day, as usual. We've been here before on this one. The stuff I was using before didn't seem to knock them out. They sort of got resistant against it, and so I've had to go over to a new stuff which I'm using, Ficam W, which is bendiocarb. Hopefully this stuff will knock them right out and they should have a good night's sleep.
Bedbugs don't only live in beds, they inhabit skirting boards and cracks and crevices in the bedroom, so Pete has to diligently search every part of the kid's room. They feed on your blood and detect heat from your body as you sleep. They're also attracted to the carbon dioxide a person breathes or snores out in the night. Once they've located you asleep and obviously very still, so an easy target, they'll suck their fill of blood from you. The state of the children's mattress is a terrible indication as to how bad the problem in this bedroom really is.
These are blood spots. Well, see, the children have been sleeping on the bed, been bit, and the blood's just come out before it's actually congealed on the person or the host. They can also be on animals. They can actually get on cats and dogs as well and take blood from them as well. So this is sort of like a prime area to start looking for when you've got evidence on the mattress.
Bedbugs are tiny, the biggest being around 5 millimetres long, and when they're not filled with blood, they're opaque in colour, making them even more difficult to locate. So Pete's investigations will have to be meticulous. Across the borough, Simon and Bill, one of Barking and Dagenham's sewage clean-up teams, are facing their first challenge of the day. With Simon's regular partner, the old master Terry, still off poorly, Simon continues to be lumbered with Bill, now complete with his huge machine.
The sewer van's into service and we've got the big beast out, which is my baby, that I use during the day.
Which you sit on this side of the baby.
No,
I've got the steering wheel this side.
He's the lazy one. He sits in the driver's seat all the time. He don't get out.
A lady at number 6 has reported a blocked lavatory, but the sewer run, where the boys reckon the blockage is, goes through next door's back garden, so better wake up the neighbour.
Hello, Barking and Dagenham sewer team.
Got someone there? Or are you just talking to yourself?
After gaining entry, Bill does the usual disappearing trick, but Simon's used to it after working with Terry.
I've got another Terry Lee there. He just wanders off. You don't know where he's going. Bill, how about the food?
I'll be in jail. Let me out.
You got a cover there, Bill?
Yeah.
You've repulled it?
No, I'm going to pull it now.
Well, can you open the gate?
I meant the cover.
So now they've found each other. Time to get the cover up.
And lift.
And as you can see, it is full. Looks like the stew had last night. Didn't have so many lumps in it though.
You can tell them people are not eating enough rubbish. It is blocked. We need further investigations on this.
The boys need to now look for the interceptor where all the sewers in the run meet. For once, it's easy to find, just outside in the yard.
Right, you're going to talk jargon now, aren't you?
Yes.
I'm going to go and stand over here.
No, you can stand here. Come stand here, because I might be alone. Can I slap him?
No, you can't.
Why not?
No violence in the council.
At least I can grow hair, look. Right, this is the interceptor that goes out into the main. And what we can do is lift up to see if this is blocked. If this is blocked, this is where we got to do it from.
Oh!
As you can see, it's full and it's got extra big lumps in it.
Same problem again. No fibre in the diet.
With the interceptor blocked, Simon needs to get some tools from the truck, unfortunately leaving Bill on his own.
While you've gone, I'm going to get a straw and suck some of that out.
It's early evening in a rain-soaked Wolverhampton, and for restaurant inspectors John and Faye, it's the start of another evening's shift, keeping a watchful eye on some of the city's 500 eateries. On their roster tonight is a local Indian takeaway due for a routine inspection.
It's often quite good to have a look at the menu, just so you sort of familiarise yourself with the types of food they're doing, so that allows you to ask perhaps the appropriate questions, and if there's anything slightly unusual, you can sort of question them about that if you need to.
After getting togged up, first John always seeks out a basin to wash his hands.
We're trying to encourage businesses to sort of follow good hygiene practices, so it's really good if businesses are seeing, we've come in, before we do anything, we wash our hands. It's just sort of encouraging them to do the same, really. Also, it gives you a great opportunity to make sure they've got the necessary hand washing facilities available. Another thing you can do when you go to wash your hands is actually check that the basin has been used, i.e. is it bone dry. Sometimes you walk into a premises, you go to wash your hands, they've been preparing food for a couple of hours and the sink's bone dry. This one was wet. Okay, I think I've just broke your hand dry.
Slightly embarrassed about his rough treatment of their towel dispenser, John heads outside to inspect the back of the restaurant.
We often come out into the sort of the behind the scenes bit, if you like, outside the rear door, sort of to check the condition of the land surrounding. Unfortunately, you just missed a rat run across the ground. Now, obviously, we don't want to see accumulations of waste and things that are going to harbour rodents, because if you encourage rodents into an area near a food premises, you've got the additional risk of them finding their way inside. Not great with the door left open. Like I said, I did see a rat. Now with the door left open, they run the risk of the rat running straight into the food premises, which is obviously a complete no-no. So one thing we will be saying is make sure that the door's kept shut.
For John, this inspection hasn't really got off to the best of starts.
First impressions aren't particularly good. Obviously we'll have to move and go inside and look more detailed, but just walking through didn't look particularly clean. The structure looked in poor condition. Outside we've seen a rat, we've seen accumulations of waste. I think we perhaps need to get inside and look a bit more closely at what's happening inside.
Let's hope for the owners that things are set to improve. In Dagenham, Pete, the council's pest controller, is continuing to assess the infestation of bedbugs in a children's bedroom. He's collecting as many as he can to take away and incinerate before he lets loose with his insecticide. For Pete, though, getting up close and personal with the bedbugs is what life's all about.
They're quite fascinating creatures, and I'm fascinated about them. They don't actually bite you, they inject you. They've got like long tubes, 2 long tubes at the front of their head and their eyes above the top. And what happens is the tubes will penetrate the skin. One of them will penetrate the skin, and then they produce an anticoagulant which stops the blood clotting, and then the other tube goes in and sucks the blood out, which fills the actual body cavity of them, and because they're transparent, it all fills up with blood, and that's where you get the brown looking bedbug. You could actually see some of the babies actually filling up with blood if they were draining the blood from a host.
Bedbugs normally reside in the lower echelons of a room or in the bed itself. It's very rare to see them higher up on the walls, unless there are any cracks for them to hide in.
Anywhere there's lines like this, usually where the wallpaper is, you'll get the bedbug in amongst them. But some reason that what they've done is they put wallpaper up, but they're painted over the top, which stops the bedbug getting into it. They've not realised what they've done, but they've done a good thing by stopping the bedbug getting behind the wall. Otherwise we'd have to spray the whole ceiling, the whole wall. What I'm doing is trying to move stuff away, because all our trouble looking at it, and from the survey back there, is they're all underneath the skirting board. We've isolated the beds. We've got most of the bed bugs out the beds, the ones which I can't get in the corner, which we spray. I don't think this is going to be a problem. I think we're on top of it now.
So after now his 4th visit to the flat and his painstaking investigation work, Pete reckons he's eventually got a grip on what's going on. So all that's left to do now is to give the whole bedroom a good spraying with the extra strength insecticide, and hopefully that should sort the problem.
I think it went very well. They'll be able to sleep in that bed tonight. Once the room's dry, I'm confident. I think it's going to work this time.
Dagenham sewage team Simon and Bill have had a result clearing the blockage at number 6 earlier than expected. So with no more call-outs, it's time for a quick cuppa and wait for a call. Bill always tries to have a laugh while doing the job he loves, but for him, helping the public is what it's all about.
I wouldn't like to do anything different, to be honest with you, because I love what I do. I mean, 4 weeks ago, I got called over to Thames Ewer to do a sewer job over there. We knocked on the door, and bless her soul, the lady, she fell over and cut her leg. So I automatically bandaged it up for her, cleaned the wound up and that, and I took her over to the doctors. And I sat with her inside the doctors with her while she was getting sorted out. And then afterwards I took her back home, and then we settled her down, made her comfortable, and then when we cleared the job, done the job for her. And then she was happy with that. I hope she's all right now, bless her.
So our job really is 90% calming them down and making them feel that something's going to get done.
Yeah, making sure that we ain't going to leave unless we clear the job. If it takes us a day, 2 days, we will still stay there and clear the job.
Coming up in part 2, Simon and Bill get a call out to test their dedication. Restaurant inspectors John and Faye continue their appraisal of the Indian takeaway, and we're out in Leicester and Wolverhampton waging war on the fly tippers. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Leicester, like all major cities, the council provides a huge range of waste recycling services. One of the biggest centres in the city for purely household waste is here at Freeman's Common. But for Steve and Sarah, who patrol the facility, busting people who are dumping trade waste is the major issue. As far as they're concerned, this is fly tipping, so getting caught could result in a £50,000 fine or 5 years in prison. The problem is actually working out who's legit. As far as Steve and Sarah are concerned, this red van looks a little suspicious, especially as it's been here once before this morning.
Have you got another van load, sir?
Yes, sir.
Have you recently moved, sir?
I've just lost my mother-in-law.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And you're clearing out the house?
I mean, we're bound to have suspicions. Second time today that van's been in, it's fully loaded. For a house clearance, it's a big house. We'll check on the vehicle reg and follow this up.
With the registration, Steve can make further inquiries as to the nature of the registered keeper's business, or even request surveillance. He also then knows where the vehicle lives, which in this case, with a guy unloading a huge amount of glass, could be a real help.
Gentleman's told us that it's from a replacement conservatory he's had built at home. So what we'll do, we'll make a discreet inquiry and see if he's got a new conservatory. If not, then he's been telling us something that's not right, and we'll have him in.
But for Steve and Sarah, on further investigation, these alleged dodgy dumpers were all legitimate. But with some 100 cars and vans arriving at the centre every day, there's every potential for success. In Wolverhampton, restaurant inspectors John and Faye are continuing their inspection of a local takeaway. Within 5 minutes of arriving, John has already seen a rat at the back of the premises, and the general state of the restaurant hasn't impressed. Let's just hope a closer look at the kitchen proves more to his liking, but measuring the temperatures in the fridge and the state of its appearance isn't a good start.
There's a slight problem with the temperature control in the fridge. Some of the foods are at a temperature higher than they should be. It's not helped by the fact that these strips are perished. As well as being perished, as you can see, they're also mouldy and really quite dirty in places. So obviously cleaning of this particular piece of equipment isn't up to scratch.
Next, Faye's a little concerned about the microwave.
Well, it's looking to be quite damaged and it's like peeling off, so debris and dirt has gone down the back of it, so it could start affecting the way the microwave works.
For John, the building itself could also do with a bit of attention.
We've got some missing tiles here, obviously exposed some bare plaster. I can see where sort of food splat has occurred, so we'd therefore be looking for those tiles or a repair job to be done there to make sure that that is easy to clean. Also, when you've got a situation like that, you could have sort of physical contamination getting into people's food, lumps of tile, plaster, paint, etc.
So there's problems aplenty, but nothing so far that could be deemed as serious. Next up, though, will be the cooking areas. In Dagenham, sewer team Simon and Bill have been called away from their tea break after a woman has reported a blocked drain. But after having a rummage around in the outlet in her back garden, there's already a problem. They can't seem to get access to the drain. So undeterred, the boys try a different tack and pull up the next door neighbour's cover. A bit of old-fashioned detective work might hopefully prove that the blockage is actually not in the lady's garden at all.
It's old school way. What you do is you mark off the rod here, like where my hand is, and you follow it through like that, and it's lower, and it shows you which way the trap is running to. So it looks like it comes, that lady there is probably the beginning of the run, and follow it all the way round, turns into here, and goes straight into the lady's front garden over there.
So if Bill's right, the sewer should be blocked at the front of the neighbour's house, and there's no need to pester the lady anymore.
Oh, I told ya, I'm good, I'm good.
With a poke about in the revolting soup, Bill has his suspicions of what's causing the blockage.
At the top there, you can see the floating bits are white. That's a sign of soap powder. And you just bang it and it'll go. But obviously it's plain hard to get, you know what I mean? Just like a woman. You can never understand a woman, mate. You can understand a sewer any day of the week. They're a nightmare, you can't even work them out, can you? Well, I can't anyway, might because I'm thick.
Bill may not be Casanova, but he's not only found the blockage, he also knows what's causing it. So now it's time to put the final part of his plan in place.
So what we do now, we'll send a jet up from this side out into the main and unblock it from that end.
So Bill needs to tog up in his banana suit and give the jet a go and see if it's all going to come together. At the Indian takeaway in Wolverhampton, restaurant inspectors John and Faye are wrapping up their surprise routine inspection. All John's got to do is check out the cooking area.
The cleaning in the sort of the areas you can see isn't too bad. It's the more hidden areas, you know, beneath equipment, behind equipment, and the more inaccessible areas, that's where cleaning's is particularly bad. The sort of thing we're looking at here has been here longer than a couple of days, probably a couple of weeks, maybe as long as a month, that sort of level.
So the restaurant's had its fair share of problems with too much food being left out at room temperature, the overall condition of the building itself, and the need for a really thorough deep clean. But it's the good food handling practices that they've seen in the kitchen that's impressed John and Faye.
We often think that the most critical part is the handling practices, although the place perhaps needed a bit of structural improvement and some improved cleaning. The fact that they're handling the food in a safe manner does give us some confidence, and we can sort of walk away thinking, yeah, people are safe to eat the food that's produced there.
In Dagenham, East London, Simon and Bill have sparked up the high-pressure jetter to give the sewer blocked with soap powder a good flushing.
There is the soap powder, that's what I dragged out the interceptor, what you can see there. And now I'm going to turn it up a bit more to try and go up into the interceptor, out into the flow.
With the jetter now at its maximum pressure, this is potentially a very dangerous procedure.
Once I'm on the back of here, when he's at the end of the jet, nothing gets between me and him. I'm responsible for him once he's at the end of the jet. When this gauge goes up to 3,000 psi, you can take his head off.
The huge pressure of the jetter soon easily frees the blockage. Another successful job done, and for once Bill's being nice to Simon.
I trust him with my life, and it's God's truth. You have to, when you're doing this sort of work and the pressure that kicks out, you've got to have someone you really trust, not just for your sake, it's for the member of the public.
But Bill's affections can often get the better of him.
Have a cuddle with the... Come here, come here, have a cuddle. Give me a cuddle.
At the Household Waste Recycling Centre in Leicester, Steve and Sarah are still on the lookout for people dumping trade waste illegally at the site to avoid paying for its disposal. This rather large van, unloading a huge amount of cardboard, has immediately raised the alarm.
I'm just watching him for the moment because we'll wait for him to actually unload something and see what he does. So we'll walk over to the ladies.
On the side of the van it states that it's a catering services business, and we've got, these look like boxes that have carried some sort of food stuff, perhaps from a catering business.
The boxes are only at the top. It's all kitchen units at the bottom.
Okay, let's get to that and have a look what you've got then.
Under closer inspection of the contents of the van, Steve and Sarah are pretty sure that in all probability this is a van load of trade waste, and they've voiced their opinions.
We've told him that we don't believe what's on there is domestic. If he wants to drop it off here, we will take the line that he would appear to have been committing an offence, and we'll deal with that.
But there's no need for Steve to worry because the guy agrees to dump the cardboard at the commercial site. Illegal dumping of rubbish and fly tipping is the scourge of our inner cities. In Wolverhampton, John, one of the council's enforcement officers, makes it his daily duty to relentlessly pursue the perpetrators. But without the undying support from the local community, his job often seems futile.
Nobody wants to get involved. Nobody wants to report them. You need the help of the public. They have got to report it and help the community.
On roads like this that are repeatedly targeted by the fly tippers, John tries to combat the problem by deploying some of the latest technology.
This bit of road here, because it is isolated, it is a hot spot. Nobody's going to see anything, so there's place down there which windows that overlook this stretch of road. I'll arrange to get a camera put into one of the windows there, and hopefully we'll pick the vehicles up to dump the waste and take it from there.
That evening, John gets access to the building to set his trap.
This is similar to a DVD recorder that you've got at home, and it's got a hard drive in it. We're now sort of going to attach a colour camera to the hard drive, and it will record on there the movements outside, hopefully picking up the fly tippers. It's going to sit on a box on a ledge up there, looking out over the road.
Many may argue that this is a waste of resources, but illegal fly tipping costs the council a fortune.
It's worth putting in to try and catch the fly tippers because it costs Wolverhampton Council £300,000–400,000 a year. So it is worth it.
With the camera set, it's now a waiting game, but John doesn't have to wait long. That night a transit van arrives, and next morning the evidence of its visit is clear to see. With the fly tipper's van caught on camera, John's now got some solid evidence to work with. Further investigations are ongoing, which John hopes will lead at last to a prosecution. Since the filming of the show, Johnny and Faye have popped back to the restaurant, and they're delighted that some real improvements to the working environment have been made. And John has gone ahead with prosecuting the fly tippers caught on. All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, Litter Picker Lou reminisces.
That's the first pussy I've felt for ages, that is.
Pest Controller Pete gives us a tour of his kitchen.
Got 80, maybe 90 snakes here, just under the 100.
Extreme Cleaner Rob gives up.
Found something dead in here, it won't shot you.
And Westminster Enforcement Officer Pete's taking no prisoners.
I live in this city, and I like to see it a clean city.
In Leicester, AJ is the man from the council whose job it is to clear out the 22,000 council flats and houses after someone has either left or been evicted from one of the properties. Today he's been called to a flat where a tenant has been evicted. He's about to make a seriously grim discovery.
Oh God, look at this.
This one-bed flat has been reduced to a virtual slum. Every room is filled with all manner of revolting rubbish, drug paraphernalia, syringes, bottles of urine and human excrement. The detritus would normally be bad enough, but the whole structure of the flat has been vandalised, with offensive graffiti in every room, the kitchen cabinets smashed and all the doors kicked off their hinges.
This is definitely a nightmare job for me. Obviously, I don't know what's underneath here. Looking at the floorboards, it doesn't look so promising at the moment. It's looking very bleak at the moment. It's council property and they've trashed it, really.
A clearance like this, with the ever-present threat of finding lethal syringes, AJ's regular clean-up teams won't work in this environment, so AJ is going to have to call in the specialists to deal with this type of job.
This is a big job. I'm going to get a special company to come in and it'll all get charged to the previous tenants. They don't actually get away with just leaving the property. We'll make sure that they don't get another property until they pay up for this one.
Even though the flat is a scene of total depravity, AJ always looks on the bright side.
It's going to be another few weeks before this one gets ready, but we'll get there slowly. Nothing deters us.
Now it's just a question of making a detailed photographic record of the state the property was left in, while AJ waits for the specialist team to turn up. In Dagenham, East London, Pete, the council's pest controller, is starting yet another shift, dealing with the borough's unwelcome guests. In his daily duties, Pete sees it all: bed bugs, rats, cockroaches, and today, his old adversary, the common wasp.
Well, another day, another morning for Barton and Dagenham Pest Control. I'm doing wasps today.
Pete's been called to a house where the tenant has complained of a wasp's nest in his loft. In this confined environment, the chances of getting stung are even greater than normal.
It's a bit of a dull day, which is quite a good day for me to do wasps. So they're going to be a bit more dormant inside. If they're inside the loft, I'll be able to handle them a bit better and not, hopefully not get stung.
In a loft situation, Pete can't just take a chance and go in immediately to confront the wasps, so he first sprays the outside of the property with a chemical that calms the wasps down. Then he can more confidently get up into the loft and check out the lie of the land and make a plan of attack. The nest is quickly identified, beautifully constructed under an eave. Pete tries to keep the use of light to a minimum when dealing with the wasps in lofts, as the insects are attracted to light sources and will go for the bright lights if they're threatened.
The torch will be set on the wasp nest there, and I'll be working, say, somewhere here. So that way, if anything does go wrong, the wasps and all that will go to the torch, to the light, and not to me, hopefully, and that's my escape of getting out if it does get a bit bad. I have been in a couple of situations where I've been in a loft and the owner said, "You all right up there?" and actually turned the loft light on, and I was literally covered with a load of wasps all over me with my suit on. Luckily that day I never got stung once, but I must have had about a good 50-60 wasps on me.
But as Pete recovers the torch, something else is suddenly attracted to the light.
Bloody hell, that's an hornet. I'll turn that light off, Steve.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to get stung, and that's an hornet.
In Leicester, AJ's specialist clean-up team have arrived to deal with the revolting flat, so AJ eases them into the job.
Oh, horrendous place up there, I tell you what, it stinks up there, really is, really bad. There's a few needles up there, but obviously we don't know what hammer we're going to find, so do be careful. But yeah, it's a bad one.
Even though the boys are expecting the worst, on first impressions the reality doesn't get any better.
Not again. Right mess.
Well, this is why you come work in the morning, isn't it?
Dave's seen all this before, but the one thing that doesn't get any better is the frustration.
You see yourself and all your friends, how they live and everything, you think, oh yeah, you know what I mean, everyone lives like that, tidy and everything, and then you find places like this that, how can people live in this? People who leave the houses like this just, I mean, don't deserve an house. Might as well be homeless on the streets.
But for the boys, what keeps them going is the satisfaction it gives them when the job's done.
You know, when you see something like this and then a couple of days later you see the finished product, you think to yourself, you know, you've done yourself proud. It's just a shame that people can get like this, and then you think to yourself, after we've done all this, is is somebody else going to come back in here and do the same again?
Aside from clearing all the rubbish, the vital thing as always is the disposal of the needles, which in these situations could have the potential of carrying serious diseases.
The main priority is the needles, obviously, because they've injected themselves, they don't know what they've got, AIDS, HIV, anything like that. The needles are in the obvious places where obviously they've been sitting and just either injecting themselves with heroin. It could be anywhere, like stabbing out of anywhere, so you've just got to be really careful.
Once the flat is free of needles, then the big clean-up can begin. In Wolverhampton, the city's proudest litter pickers, Lou and his partner Dave, are starting their daily rounds, but unusually losing a bit of a grump.
We're here again. Different day, same old beer cans in the street. People just chuck them out of cars. I just can't work out at times why they just don't pick them up and chuck them in their bin at home. Whatever it is, we've picked it up. We've got the cans, we've got the bags, we'll chuck it away. Tin over there, David, don't be frightened to pick it up. Here, I'll get it while you're doing nothing.
But luckily, there's always something to lighten Lou's mood.
That's the first pussy I've felt for ages, that is.
It's also one of the few cats he's seen that Lou hasn't recently scraped off the road.
I love animals, you know that. We don't want him in the freezer at Culwell Street, do we? He's too nice.
So now Lou's back on track, time to get to grips with a small hedgerow.
How the hell has that got there? Look at that. It's a wine bottle, that is. Lambruschi, I think it is. Oh no. Who put that in there? You'll never believe this. Look at that, dinosaur bones. Look at that. Hold your foot up, let's see if it's one of yours. No, it ain't one of yours, is it? Chuck it in the bag, eh?
With Lou back on form, let's hope the rest of the shift continues to be so enjoyable. In Dagenham, pest controller Pete has togged up to face the wasp's nest in the loft. After seeing loads of wasps and what he thought was a hornet, he's taking no chances.
I've got my soap before I enter because I'll get too hot, and my gloves. I've got my torch already in there. I'm ready to go and find it.
On getting up into the loft again, fortunately there's no sign of the hornet, so Pete's ready to do his worst on the nest, but he feels strangely sorry for the occupants.
When I actually remove their nest and show you the structure, it's just unbelievable, all the time and effort they've done for me to come along and kill them.
After his diligent planning, it's a quick job to spray the nest with insecticide and hopefully kill all the wasps. He can now remove the nest from the eaves. Back outside, the intricacy of the nest is a wonder to behold.
To actually build something like that with that diameter all the way through the nest is unbelievable. How they do it, I don't know. If I actually bend it slowly, you can actually see the actual wasps where they've grown from the grubs. You can see them all lined up from like the grubs and forming to the wasp, which then turns out, if I take this one out carefully, is what you end up with for next year.
At the horrendous house clearance in Leicester, the boys are still making some revolting discoveries.
That was doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Found something dead in here, it won't shot you because anything could be in it, couldn't it? So people have just lost it, haven't they? Lost reality of life.
The more worrying finds for Dave, though, is a child's bag and book. To have a child staying in this environment is for him shocking.
Having a kid living here in this state, it's not really healthy, really. At some time, yeah, there must have been someone living here with kids, or kids stopped over, you know, like, I don't know, nieces, nephews, etc. But if I want to allow my kids coming in.
But things get worse with the discovery of a stash of drugs.
There's a bag containing 2 sachets there, not too sure what's in them, but it's probably either heroin or some sort of drug in there. We can't just go around them, and we'll have to go through our gaffer, and then he'll contact AJ, and then it'll go through to the police, and then they'll deal with it.
For Rob, who's been doing this kind of work for over a decade, the depressing thing is he's now being called to these type of clearances more and more, facing the dangers of drug paraphernalia and deadly syringes. If these places are indicative of the state of the world today, then Rob's insight into present-day life is truly alarming.
When I first started, there were probably 2 a year top, but now it's probably 1 per month. So that just shows the extent it's getting to. Now it's just getting worse and worse and worse. where's it going to end in the end? Like, definitely worse than animals. We've seen that over the, well, I have over the years. Animals wouldn't live like they, well, they certainly wouldn't do what that people do. People are worse than animals.
Coming up in part 2, the boys get on top of the flat. Pete shows off some friends at home, Lou clears some fly tips, and out of the dark comes Peter, patrolling a horrible night in Soho. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Dagenham, East London, Pete the pest controller has returned home after a long day dealing with the wasps. For a man who spends his life eradicating rats, mice and insects from the houses of the borough, you might think that when he gets home he's had enough of hunting vermin, but not a bit of it. His whole garden is dedicated to the fine art of falconry.
This is Marana, which is French, means goddess of death.
For Pete, there's nothing more he'd rather do than let someone else do the killing on his days off, and Marana is a perfect candidate to do just that.
It's a Finnish goshawk from Finland. It's one of the bigger varieties of goshawks, and this is me falconry bird I go hunting with.
But Pete's got another friend in the shed that instigated his passion for falconry.
Right, this is a Harris hawk, and this is Bonnie, and believe it or not, she's 22 years old. I've had her from since she was a chick.
For Pete, flying and hunting with these birds initiated his love of the chase in tracking down his quarry as a pest controller. But working with these birds of prey is all about the true purity of the hunting he loves.
Most of my job's to do with hunting, with my pest control, and then hunting with my birds. But it's a fair challenge with a bird.
But it's in the house that Pete has some more surprises when it comes to the menagerie that share his kitchen. In Leicester, extreme cleaners Dave, Rob and Lee are making good headway, clearing the repulsive council flat filled with the most horrific contents. Even though they've been here most of the day, they're still finding the odd nasty surprise.
In a cup, what, on the shelf? I must be saving it for some reason.
But working in this environment, dealing with the ex-tenants' flagrant disregard and abuse to both themselves and the council's property, it's starting to anger Dave.
People that just like are given this sort of thing on benefits and then they just live like this. I mean, it does dishearten you a bit because you think to yourself, yeah, I'll work all day and these just sit on their arse all day and just make it look like a tip.
The boys' main problem before they could blitz the room was the needles littering the property, but after meticulous searching, they've recovered all that are visible. Time now to start shifting the big stuff. The main problem is extricating the sofa, but some of the furniture has to stay where it is because the tenants have 28 days to come back, be let in and claim their valuables, as their eviction was immediate. For Dave, though, he feels otherwise.
Personally, yeah, I do. I think everything in the place should just be gutted out, nothing in it, just walls and floors, for the council to refurb, put refurnishing in it, everything for the next tenant. I don't think the tenant who used to live here should be set foot back in this place. Because at the end of the day, they've left it like this, that's it. They shouldn't be allowed back in.
The huge number of needles and the sheer devastation has slowed the boys down. So at the end of the first day, they've only cleared the sitting room. The rest of the flat will take them over a week to clean before AJ can come in and start to measure up to redecorate the place and put it back on the market. Let's just hope the new tenant will appreciate everyone's hard work. In Wolverhampton, litter picker Lou and his partner Dave have brightened up their daily routine with the discovery of a little fly tip.
Oh, here we go again. David, bit of a fly tip over here. Let's see what we got here. Oh, it's only a Mona Lisa. Well, almost. The island cows, a few snails on it. That'd be a nice picture, that would. David, do you want this picture to take home?
No.
Why not? To look lovely in your front room. You don't want it?
No.
OK then, I'll chuck it in the van. You've had your chance, right? All this furniture I find for David and he doesn't want none of it. I can't understand why not. It's took us 5-10 minutes to clean that bit of a rubbish up. How long would it took the person that dumped it there to put it in the bin? Same amount of time.
All that's left to do now is to give the area a good sweep, and that includes the slugs.
Thrushes survive on slugs. Look at them, thousands in the trees. We'll never get rid of slugs, will we? They've got to have somewhere to live. Do you have any in London? I bet you do.
To finish Lou and Dave's shift, they've given themselves a treat to head down to a more picturesque part of the city, the local park. It's great to even briefly get away from the normal fare doled out by the more beleaguered parts of the city.
Obviously, we've got the rough areas that need cleaning regular, and you've got nice parts as well. It's a pleasure always to come here. Obviously, people are very tidy and clean round here, so you only get the odd bits of rubbish, which is very nice.
Lou has his own ideas on why places like this are so clean.
If you see no litter, you tend not to drop any litter. I think it's psychological at times. If you're here and you see nothing, you think, oh, I'm not going to drop any litter there. It's lovely and clean. We'll plop it in the bin.
But as Lou and Dave go about their business, basking in the evening sunshine, one thing's for sure, tomorrow they'll be back to the grind, tackling the worst Wolverhampton can throw at them. After the revelation of what's living at the bottom of his garden, Pete, Dagenham Council's pest controller, has a few more surprises in his kitchen.
I've got 80, maybe 90 snakes here, just under the 100.
Apart from the plethora of snakes, Pete also shares his kitchen with a few lizards and a dustbin full of crickets. Pete has always been passionate about his slithery friends, but he's a bit nonplussed as to why.
There's something about snakes, I don't know what it is, but if you ask someone, why do you keep snakes? I don't think they can really give you a true answer, because I think they're just fascinating, but they don't do nothing. There they are, sitting in there, just sitting in the box, doing nothing.
But you would think that his wife and daughter would run a mile with Pete's chums taking up most of the kitchen, but not a bit of it. One of the biggest is his daughter's special friend.
This is one of her snakes. I'll have to use a stick on this because it's a bit feisty. This is an Indian python, but it's an albino Indian python. They get to about 18 foot. And this one's only like 4 or 5 foot. But just ease her out slowly. I mean, that's coming really on lovely, that is now, that snake. And this is her snake. This is her little baby.
Pete's had a long career in all manner of work, from lorry driving to being a keeper at London Zoo. But for him, pest control is absolutely his dream job.
I've been doing it about 2 years coming up now, pest control. And basically, it is a job for me. That is me, pest control. There's a lot of good comes out in pest control. You help a lot of people, you get a lot of rewards. So yeah, I think I'll be doing pest control for the rest of my life, I think, now.
Policing the London's West End against illegally dumped rubbish is a career for individuals who have resilience, tenacity and a meticulous no-nonsense approach. During the day, Jarno has consistently exercised a zero-tolerance stance towards the illegal dumpers. But if one thought he was obsessive, out of the rain-soaked darkness, starting the night shift, Pete takes over the reins to make sure everyone is adhering exactly to the letter of the law.
Yes, thank you, Control. I'll take over from here. I'll now be Control for the night service, over.
From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. most nights, Pete is in control of all the waste enforcement and collection in London's West End. So as well as his own duties, he's in communication with all the other operatives on the ground. But while digging around in a bag full of condoms from a massage parlour, being in touch with everyone can have its downside.
Apparently what was happening in my earpiece was interfering, and they could hear me on the airwaves talking about massage parlours. God dear. Never mind. Never mind. Onward and upward.
In doing his job, Pete's main weapon to clear away rubbish and slip hazards are his shoes. He gets through some 6 pairs a year, but his shoes won't even make a dent in this load of bags. Even though the company has put out the rubbish on time, passers-by have added to the pile and the unsuspecting company could get the blame.
I'd like to see it a bit neater, stacked against the wall. It looks as though it's just been thrown on, but you can see there's bits of cardboard in between in this box here. And I found some evidence in the box to say what it's come from. The whole thing about it is the business has a duty of care to make sure the waste doesn't escape, and they're supposed to put it out tidy. Well, that's not tidy. Okay, it might be a neat pile, but unfortunately they could make a bit more effort of pushing it against the wall, standing it up straight, make sure the bags are tied and make sure everything's contained, and it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this company a duty of care warning, and they'll have it in the post in the next few days.
Further down the street, Pete spied the chef of a restaurant putting out a bag that's leaking on the pavement. For him, that won't do at all.
Hello, this is Westminster City Council. The chef has just brought out a bag of waste.
That's right.
Can I have a quick word with you about it? You just put that bag out and see the bottom split and there's a box in there. Can you ask him to rebag it for me, please?
Sure.
Otherwise that's going to be over the street.
Yeah.
The thing is, these bags are going to be out for a little while yet and it's a crossing. So if people start kicking these bags, then the waste is going to end up on the street. So let's deal with it now, get it settled, get it sorted, get it rebagged, then we won't have a problem.
The customer is only too happy to oblige, and Pete's chuffed.
I'm happy now, yes.
On a busy Friday night like this one, Pete's job is often hampered by general over-exuberance.
What are you doing down there?
Yeah, she's on the camera.
Come on.
But whatever the public can throw at him, it's Pete's passion for the job that keeps him going.
And I don't like to see things untidy. That's my nature. I live in this city, and I like to see it a clean city. And you know, really, at the end of the day, if I can help, then I will.
As he turns the corner to reveal another sordid street, one thing's for sure: Pete's relentless fight is not over yet.
Oh dear.
Since the filming of the show, after some 2 weeks of hard work by the boys, AJ has successfully re-let the horrendous needle-infested council flat.